Hey guys! Part 5 of What If Naruto Unlocked His True Potential. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are paid, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 25, Burning Minds and Burning Will. Naruto-kun! Congratulations! Almost immediately after arriving in the waiting room, Naruto was greeted by Hinata. The girl rushed over to him and gave him a hug with enough force that she nearly knocked him over. The blonde's eyes widened in response before he returned to the hug. Thanks Hinata-chan. Naruto smiled. He then started to wince a little as the Hyuga tightened the hug. Hinata, you are kinda hugging a little tight. Hinata quickly let go of the boy, a blush on her face. Sorry. Nah, don't apologize. The blonde chuckled. I didn't know you could shout that loud. I could hear your cheering all the way down there in the arena. Hinata's blush seemed to brighten in color, but a smile also graced her lips. Well, what can I say? You fought amazingly. Fought like a true tactician. Shikamaru commented with a smirk as he walked over to greet his friend. I don't think I've ever seen you fight like that. Naruto then turned his attention to Shikamaru. The two proceeded to high-five each other. Hey, I learned a few things over the month break. And there's more where that came from, the blonde informed him. I'd hope. It means our match will be a lot more fun, Kuratsuchi exclaimed as she walked over to the members of Team 3 with a grin on her face. At seeing Kuratsuchi, Naruto frowned as he remembered the words Risho spoke during their fight about his family situation. Hey Kuratsuchi, Risho's going to be alright, right? His clan isn't actually going to do anything to him, right? He asked quietly. Kuratsuchi's grin immediately fell as she shook her head. Honestly, I don't know. The Kurigane clan is weird and their clan head is even weirder. It wouldn't surprise me if something like that actually happened. The kunoichi then developed a scowl on her face. They better not try and remove him though. He fought well. He definitely doesn't deserve that. Naruto sighed. I'm kinda starting to wonder his home life was like. His clan sounds like a bunch of jackasses. Honestly, I'm wondering the same thing. The IWA Genin agreed with a sigh of her own. But I at least know all of this now. I'll definitely be there for Risho if things go bad for him back in IWA. And I know Roto and Han-sensei will help him as well. Naruto let a small smile develop on his face. As long as some people are there for him, then he should be okay. Naruto, feeling a little better about Risho's future, started to think about his next match in the Chunin exams. His smile then turned into a cocky grin. But for now, you should be focusing on our match and trying to last longer than a few minutes. Dream on. Kuratsuchi scoffed with a similar cocky grin. You're gonna have to try and keep up with me. Naruto and Kuratsuchi continued to banter between the two about their upcoming match. Shikamaru and Hinata watched, listening to their colorful language in amusement. The back and forth arguing between the two genin ended when Genma started to speak loudly from the center of the arena towards the crowds of people. It is now time to start the next match. Will Aburame, Shino, and Naro Shikamaru please come forward? The competitors in the waiting area turned their attention towards the two competitors. Shino, who had been standing in a corner alone in the waiting area, nodded to himself as he started to walk away. He gave a curious glance at Shikamaru before he walked out, heading towards the center arena. Shikamaru watched the boy head down before he sighed, realizing that he was going to have to get his fight out of the way. Well, guess it's my turn, he grumbled. Do your best, Shikamaru-kun. Hinata told her teammate with a smile. Yeah? Kick his ass out there, Naruto exclaimed. I'll do what I can, Shikamaru replied with a chuckle. He waved goodbye to his teammates as he started to walk away towards the center arena, right behind Shino. Shikamaru? Kuratsuchi called out the boy's name. He stopped walking and turned his head to face the IWA kunoichi. She gave him a thumbs-up gesture and smiled at him. Good luck. Do your best out there, okay? Sure thing, he replied with a smirk as he waved back to her before he continued to walk towards the arena. Go Shino! Go Shino! Ino shouted loudly as she watched her teammate enter the center of the arena. Both Choji and Asuma winced at Ino's screaming. The Yamanaka was never known for being quiet, but this was even louder than how she normally was. She was also jumping around in spot during her cheering. I know it's a good thing to cheer on your teammate, but don't you think you're going a little overboard here? Asuma questioned as he rubbed his ears. Of course not. Shino is our teammate. He's representing Team 10 down there, so he needs to do great. Ino explained with a shrug. Besides, it's Shino. I know he's kinda weird and acts like he doesn't care that much about us, but I know that deep down, our opinion matters to him. He needs to hear us loud and clear, cheering him on. The Yamanaka then turned her attention back to the center of the arena. She had noticed Shikamaru was now arriving and a scowl developed on her face. Kick his ass, Shino! Show him all the bug stuff you can do and take that lazy ass down! So loud. Asuma held his ears tight. Shino. Shikamaru. Choji looked down towards the arena, feeling conflicted. On one hand, Shino was his teammate and was a nice enough, albeit really quiet, guy that Choji enjoyed working with. On the other hand, Shikamaru was his childhood best friend and, while he was not on his team, he still felt a strong connection to them. The Akimichi didn't want to cheer for one of them over the other, and he definitely didn't want to see either of them hurt. A few seconds passed before he let a smile cross his lips. I'll just cheer for you both to do well enough to get your promotions. Go Shino! Go Shikamaru! Do great, you guys! Choji shouted downward with a voice as loud as Ino's. Shikamaru, don't you dare listen to Choji. Ignore him. That was meant only for Shino. Come on, Shino. Kick his ass. Ino's cheering grew even louder once Choji started. Kick his ass. My poor ears. Asuma wept silently to himself. Unlike Naruto and Risho during the match before, either Shikamaru nor Shino had any bad blood between each other. Therefore, they did not waste any time to taunt or insult each other. They simply got into position and prepared to make the first move once their match officially started. Ginma quickly noticed their focus and realized that they were ready to begin. He then decided to not waste time himself and spoke up loudly for everybody to hear. The match between Aburame Shino and Naro Shikamaru, begin! Both Shino and Shikamaru jumped backwards, putting distance between each other. Shikamaru ultimately made the first move as he chucked a kunai with an explosive tag at Shino. The Aburame avoided the kunai as it made contact with the ground, and then proceeded to jump out of the way of the subsequent explosion. He landed on the ground further away from Shikamaru and away from the hole on the ground from Shikamaru's explosion. The Aburame stared intently at the Nara as his Kikeichu insects were slowly starting to come out. Be mindful of his insects, Shikamaru told himself as he made note of the Kikeichu that were appearing. I need to keep my distance from them. Not like that should be too difficult as long as I maintain adequate use of my explosives and fire jutsus. Shino was the one to make the next move as a swarm of his Kikeichu insects started to approach the Nara rapidly. Shikamaru retaliated by making hand signs. Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu! Shikamaru unleashed a barrage of fireballs heading directly towards the approaching swarm of insects. The fire flew at a rapid pace, and it seemed as if it would make contact with the Kikeichu. Shino's eyes widened at the sight of the fireballs and he jumped forward towards his insects, making hand signs of his own. Water style, Water Wall Jutsu! A wall of water appeared from the ground right in front of the Kikeichu insects. Shikamaru's fireballs made direct contact with the water wall before disappearing. Shino dropped his jutsu the second afterwards, having saved his insects from any potential harm. You're shitting me. Of course you know water elemental ninjutsu. Nothing can be easy for me, it seems. Shikamaru grumbled under his breath. Despite Shikamaru speaking quietly, Shino managed to hear him. The Aburame gave him an amused look before speaking himself. Of course I'd learn water-style jutsus. Why, you may ask? Because of the potential danger fire can present to my Kikeichu. I need to keep them protected at all costs. No, it makes sense. Never once denied that. It's smart to learn it. Shikamaru replied with a shrug as he pulled out another kunai with an explosive tag. It's just something I'm going to have to deal with. Shikamaru tossed his kunai directly at the Kikeichu swarm and activated the tag. The insects scattered immediately and avoided the resulting explosive. Shikamaru proceeded to toss more kunai with explosive tags at the separated insects, and triggered the explosions at the smaller sections of Kikeichu. The insects were now moving hectically as they avoided each of Shikamaru's explosions. Shino observed carefully the situation and was watching Shikamaru's every move, waiting for the first opening he could exploit. With each explosion, the Nara kept moving forward on the battlefield closer to Shino. Once he felt he was close enough, he tossed out one last kunai with an explosive tag. He then, instead of making the hand sign to activate it, made a different hand sign. Ninja Art, Shadow Possession Jutsu. Shikamaru's shadow extended from his body at a rapid rate. Shino's eyes widened at the sight. The boy appeared as if he was about to jump out of the way, but the shadow moved faster than him and made contact with his shadow. Both Shikamaru and Shino were now connected via shadow. As predicted, Shikamaru noted to himself as a confident smirk appeared on his face. He made a hand sign with his body, one that Shino's body mimicked due to Shikamaru's jutsu. Shino's too concerned about insects. All I had to do was distract him by attacking them, and he'd let himself wide open for an attack. Still, that was a little easier than I honestly ever expected. Something's not right. The connected shadow started to slowly ascend on Shino's body in the form of a hand. The shadow hand then surrounded Shino's neck and gripped it tightly. I don't really want to do any damage to you, Shino, so I'd advise you forfeit now, Shikamaru suggested. Shino gave no verbal reply. The Aburame seemed to have no reaction at all to not only getting caught by Shikamaru's jutsu, but also at the threat of potentially being strangled. This is definitely not right. What's going on? Shikamaru's thoughts stopped as he watched the Shino he had caught in his shadow start to fall apart into several small Kikeichu. He had not caught the real Shino, merely a bug clone. His eyes widened in response. What the hell? Shit! Shikamaru started to scan the area around him only to see that he was now surrounded by the Kikeichu beetles that were inching closer to him each second. Standing amongst the insects was Shino. How the hell did you get away from me undetected? When did you make that clone? When did you switch out with it? Shikamaru questioned immediately. Shino didn't respond immediately. He looked at the Nara in amusement as his insects continued to approach him. A few seconds finally passed before Shino spoke up. It's always a good idea for a shinobi to have an ace up their sleeves, Shikamaru-san. After saying those words, Shino made a hand sign. The Kikeichu insects responded immediately and flew directly at Shikamaru at a fast rate. Shikamaru cursed to himself as he started to run through hand signs. Well, Mom, it's time to see how well I learned that jutsu, Shikamaru told himself after he finished the hand signs. Ninja Art, Shadow Protection Jutsu. The shadows around Shikamaru surrounded him and formed a circular, shadowy barrier. The barrier formed just in time before the Kikeichu beetles managed to attack Shikamaru. Shino wasn't fazed, however, and continued making hand signs. His insects responded by constantly trying to attack further and break through Shikamaru's barrier. Shikamaru felt himself starting to sweat as he maintained his hand signs and kept the barrier intact. A few seconds passed before Shikamaru broke his hand signs and made a pushing gesture with the palms of his hands. The shadow barrier that surrounded him was then pushed backwards. The Kikeichu beetles that were on top of the barrier, trying to break through it, were pushed backwards and sent flying away from Shikamaru. The insects were dazed for a little bit before they stopped themselves and floated in place. They were buzzing angrily. Shino gave them a curious look for a second before he turned his attention back towards Shikamaru. Quite the interesting jutsu, Shikamaru-san. It seems to have severely irritated my Kikeichu. Shino noted nonchalantly. I can piss off insects too? Go figure. Shikamaru commented with a smirk as he brushed the sweat off his forehead. Yes, but I wouldn't necessarily wish to deal with angry Kikeichu. Why, you may ask? They're a species that remembers aggressors well and holds grudges. The Aburame commented as he made another hand sign. The insects started to charge again, buzzing even louder. I'm cool with that. But if they want revenge at me for that, then they better be ready, because I'm not going to let them give it to me easily. The Nara smirked as he made a hand sign of his own. He's good. They're both good. Kuratsuchi noted with a smirk on her face as she watched the two Konoha shinobi in the arena fight. This is intense as hell. You're telling me? Naruto nodded in agreement, his eyes focused on Shikamaru and Shino. They're both geniuses, you know? I guess this is what happens when two of them fight each other. Every move by each of them is so calculated. It seems like they're trying to think steps ahead of each other. And when they get caught out, they can use their natural instinct to break free. Hinata spoke up in amazement as she watched the fight between the two strategists. It's incredible! The three genin continued to watch the fight intently as they paid attention to the strategies of the two Konoha shinobi fighting. Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Water style, Water Wall Jutsu! As soon as Shikamaru released another barrage of fireballs towards the Kikaichu insects, Shino summoned a second, larger wall of water to block the fireballs from hitting his insects. As soon as the fireballs and the water faded away, Shikamaru tossed multiple kunai with explosive notes at the Kikaichu insects and Shino himself. The Aburame, along with his insects, managed to avoid the explosions and place more distance between the Nara and his opponents. Damn! All of my offensive is useless against him. He reacts so fast and avoids everything. I need to somehow get up close to him, just him, not his damn insects too. Shikamaru pondered to himself. It was in that moment became aware of the condition of the battlefield. The ground itself was riddled with holes from Shikamaru's explosive tags, dark holes filled with potential shadows. Maybe. Why not? It's worth a shot. Shikamaru told himself. I need to at least try something. Shikamaru proceeded to rush towards Shino. Shino responded by making a gesture with his hands, urging his Kikaichu forward to attack the Nara. As soon as the beetles came close to Shikamaru to attack him, Shikamaru proceeded to make hand signs. Ninja Art! Shadow Protection Jutsu! Shikamaru surrounded himself again with the surrounding shadows and a barrier, and pushed the Kikaichu insects away from him. As soon as the beetles brushed off the days from being shoved off again, Shino made hand signs and they charged at Shikamaru again. The Nara then repeated the same jutsu, and used the same shadowy barrier to block the attacks and push the insects away from him. Interesting. He's still using that technique over and over again. Shino noted to himself. This is going to backfire on him soon, however. He was sweating profusely after he used it the first time. That jutsu must require plenty of chakra to maintain. If he keeps using it like that, he's going to exhaust himself. The Aburame let a small smirk develop on his face as he made another hand sign, causing his insects to charge after Shikamaru again. If I can get him to overuse that jutsu and overexert his chakra supply, then I shall be the winner. Both Shikamaru and Shino continued the same system over and over again. Shikamaru would activate his shadow protection jutsu to knock the Kikaichu beetles away, and Shino would send his insects back in to keep up their assault. With each round, Shikamaru would rush over near one of the holes in the ground to the next. He was also starting to get closer to Shino's position, a fact that the Aburame boy noticed. Still, Shino wasn't too worried. With the amount of times the Nara was using his jutsus, he had to be nearing the limit of his chakra supply. Eventually, though, Shikamaru ended up approaching Shino. The Aburame, certain that Shikamaru did not have enough chakra for one more jutsu, urged his Kikaichu to strike one final time and defeat the Nara. Shikamaru, however, surprised as he made the same hand signs one more time. Ninja Art! Shadow Protection Jutsu! Despite Shino's prediction, the Kikaichu insects were blocked from Shikamaru by the same shadowy barrier and were forced backward rapidly soon after. The Nara was now directly in front of the Aburame. Shit! Shino cursed mentally as Shikamaru made one final set of hand signs. Ninja Art! Shadow Possession Jutsu! Shino was too close and was surrounded by so many shadows that he couldn't avoid Shikamaru's jutsu. Their shadows were now linked and he was under the Nara's control. About damn time! Shikamaru grumbled to himself. The Nara was breathing heavily and was feeling rather exhausted. How aren't you unconscious from chakra exhaustion? Shino couldn't help but question. The Aburame's eyes were wide open and were even visible despite him wearing his sunglasses. I should be. Thankfully I've been blowing up this arena with my explosive tags. Shikamaru commented nonchalantly. He turned his head to face one of the holes nearby so Shino could see exactly what he was talking about. You see how dark it is? There are so many shadows down there that I was able to use with my jutsus. And your jutsus do not require as much chakra if you have more shadows to control and manipulate. Shino realized. Precisely. Shikamaru nodded in clarification. Shino frowned in response as realization hit him about how much he had messed. The idea that the Nara's shadow techniques were easier for them to use when they had more shadows to utilize seemed like an obvious concept in hindsight, but it was something Shino had never bothered to consider. He was so certain in his plan that Shikamaru would have gone past his limit that he let himself get careless and, as a result, he had lost. His Kikaichu insects were not going to attack Shikamaru as long as Shino was under his control. So, just saying, I have enough chakra to strangle you and knock you out. I can either do that, or you can just forfeit now. Shikamaru offered as he made a hand sign. A shadowy hand started to travel up Shino's body and reached his neck. Which will it be, Shino? I'd personally prefer the latter, but it's your call. The Aburame sighed in response as realization truly hit him that he had been outwitted. He felt his own pride wounded, but he also felt respect for Shikamaru, a respect for a fellow strategist who he was able to go toe-to-toe with. He had learned about the cost of being careless, but he also learned more about his own abilities and capabilities. He had gained a lot from this match that he felt he would take on with him into his own personal career. With that thought, he found himself content, at least slightly, with his own defeat. I concede, Shino called out to Genma. The proctor nodded before he pointed his fingers towards Shikamaru. This match is over. The winner is Nara Shikamaru. Upon hearing those words, Shikamaru released his jutsu and freed Shino from his control. The Nara then proceeded to fall to the ground while the audience started to cheer loudly for both him and Shino for their fight. God, that fight was such a pain. Glad I won though. Shikamaru breathed heavily, both from exhaustion and relief. Holy shit! Anko cursed. I'm 2 for 3. Yeah! The sensei of Team 3 proceeded to cheer even louder from the stands. Way to go, lazy ass! You were awesome out there! I'm debating about searching for a different seat. Anko won't shut up. Ibiki rolled his eyes at his colleagues, screaming. Give her a break, Ibiki. She's just excited that her team is doing good. Kurenai replied with a smile as she watched Shikamaru pull himself off the ground and start to walk, along with Shino, out of the arena. I have to say, her students are really surprising me. I'd agree. He and Naruto actually seem to have a very tactical mind. Ibiki commented thoughtfully as he closed his eyes. The Naruto's fight was impressive. Both he and the Aburame displayed a good knowledge of tactics and fought at a level beyond most average genin. I wouldn't be surprised if they both got promoted. I'd agree with that. Kurenai nodded in agreement. Of course he's getting promoted. So will Naruto and Hinata. Anko continued to shout loudly her praise for her team. I'm starting to wonder if she's slightly drunk. I don't think I've seen her this excited except when we get really hard to break visitors to the TNI department. Ibiki sighed in frustration as he watched his friend's excited reaction towards her students' victories. That sucked. Shino should have won that. Ino hissed as she crossed her arms. She huffed loudly to voice her frustration. Stupid lazy-ass Shikamaru. Don't be too bitter, Ino. Shikamaru earned his win, and Shino put up a good fight. Asuma told her with a smile on his face. Come on, you have to admit that Shino did well and made you proud. Ino's frustrations were calmed slightly as she really thought back to the fight and how Shino did. A few seconds passed before she smiled and responded back to her sensei. Yeah, he did. Shino gave him a run for his money and did great. I think there's a chance he may have earned Chunin too. We'll see. It's all complicated stuff whether people get the rank or not. Asuma chuckled as he turned his attention to his other student. What did you think, Choji? Next time, I'll be up in the finals as well and I'll do just as good of job as they did, if not better. The Akimichi replied with a fire burning in his eyes. Asuma blinked in response. Such determination was unusual to see in Choji's eyes in situations that did not involve food. However, after seeing his best friend and his teammate fight against each other, the Akimichi felt a strong desire to not get left behind and prove himself as well. I'd agree with that. Ino exclaimed as she pounded her fists together. I was humiliated this year against that guy from Oto, but next time will be different. Choji and are going to rock the Chunin exams big time. Asuma watched his students react with such fire and determination that he actually laughed to himself. He was starting to imagine the shinobi that his team will become in the next few years. All three of them were showing more determination and promise than he had thought when he was first assigned to them, and each day, they surprised him in some way. It was moments like these where he was glad he finally decided to listen to his father and take on a genin team. Shikamaru-kun! Congrats, man! Shikamaru winced as his two teammates forced him into a group hug the second he walked back into the waiting area. The Nara's breathing became weaker, and he slowly started to cough. Let go! He breathed out. Hinata and Naruto immediately let go of Shikamaru. He quickly tried to relax himself as he started to breathe hard. Shortly after, he gave his two teammates a glare. You know, you two are going to be the death of me one day. Probably from suffocation. He told them. It might be easier on you if you actually return the hug. Or if you just some more muscle on you. Naruto teased back. Maybe. Shikamaru shrugged in response. His glare faded and the Nara gave his teammates a smile, not one of his usual smirks. Having said that, thanks for all the cheering and everything. Of course. Hinata replied with a smile of her own. It's what friends are for. Naruto replied with a chuckle. Shikamaru laughed in response to Naruto's comment. He soon then turned his attention to Kuratsuchi. The IWA Kunoichi gave him a smirk as she held out his hand towards him. You fought well out there, Kuratsuchi stated. I tried. Shikamaru replied as he took her hand and shook it. Great job out there. Thanks. You two flirt so boringly, Naruto commented nonchalantly. Excuse me? Both Shikamaru and Kuratsuchi let go of each other's hand and turned their heads toward Naruto. The blonde shrugged in response. I mean, you fought well out there? Thanks? That has no meaning behind it. It's like the two of you don't care at all. The two of you need to be more expressive and passionate when you speak to each other. Maybe like, oh, I knew you would win, Shikamaru-kun, and it was because of your cheering that I was able to win. Make the other person feel something, damn it. Shikamaru and Kuratsuchi openly gaped at Naruto's advice. Both shinobi also had a slight blush on their faces and were making a concentrated effort not to look at each other. Naruto noticed their looks and started to grin happily. Hinata also noticed and giggled quietly to herself. Seconds later, the embarrassment disappeared from Shikamaru and Kuratsuchi both simply looked at Naruto in anger and frustration. They both opened their mouths to respond to the boy's advice, but the words died on their tongues as Gunma started to speak. We'll now begin with the third match. Will Uchiha Sasuke and Rock Lee please come forward? He stated loudly. YOSH! Finally, it is my turn to fight! Rock Lee shouted, gathering all attention from the other genin and any nearby spectators. The bushy-browed genin, who had been surprisingly quiet in the waiting area, wasted no time when he heard his name called. He jumped from the balcony and landed gracefully in the center of the battlefield. He then started to jump up and down as he eagerly waited for his match to begin. Humph! Sasuke shook his head in response to Lee's excitement. Despite the irritated grunt, the Uchiha had a smirk on his face. Guess he's just as ready as I am to get this started. With those words, Sasuke started to walk out of the waiting room and headed towards the central battlefield in the more conventional manner. The members of Team 3 and Kuratsuchi watched the Uchiha leave before they turned to face each other. So, what do you guys think? You know them better, so who's gonna win? Kuratsuchi questioned. I don't know. I guess Lee? Shikamaru answered. Didn't Sasuke and Lee have a spar before the Chunin exams, though? I think Sasuke lost that. Things may have changed. Sasuke-sen may give Lee more of a challenge this time, Hinata noted. The Nara shrugged in response. I suppose? I don't care too much, to be honest. I just hope whoever wins is exhausted by the time I have to fight them. Sasuke. Naruto thought to himself. The blonde was never close to the Uchiha by any means and, during their time in the academy, he outright resented him. It always annoyed him how much people seemed to worship him. Now, his feelings had softened and he could look at Sasuke more neutrally. As a result, he was genuinely curious how Sasuke had improved. Do your best, Sasuke. One of these days I'd like to take you on myself, Naruto told himself as he waited impatiently for the match to begin. So Lee's gotten better, right, Guy-sensei? Tenten questioned her sensei as she watched Lee jump in place in the arena. Yes, he has. We've spent hours each day devoted to improving his skills. He is going against Kakashi's star pupil first, so we needed to prepare for whatever my eternal rival and his student have planned, Guy proclaimed as he did his standard nice guy pose. I am proud of Lee. I know that he is ready for the exams and his fight, and I know that he has what it takes to go far here. I hope so. Tenten nodded in response. Unlike her sensei, Tenten was hesitant to place a bet on this match. She knew how tough Lee was, but she also knew that Sasuke was supposed to be a prodigy similar to Lee. With the right training, he could be an absolutely devastating opponent. The Kunoichi always prided herself on being a realist, and, as unfortunate as it was, she had admitted that her teammate was going to have a difficult battle for him to win. You can do it, Lee, she told herself, trying to brush off her more cynical thoughts. All she could do was hope that she was just thinking too much into the fight and that Lee would come out victorious. You know, I realize Kakashi-sensei is always late, but I imagined he would have shown up to watch one of his students in the finals. Kiba grumbled as he looked around the seats of the arena for his sensei for the umpteenth time. Once again, he could not find him, which caused both him and Akamaru to growl in irritation. He'll be here eventually. Sakura shook her head with no concern for Kakashi. How do you think Sasuke-kun will do? Well, Lee kicked his ass pretty hard last time. Kiba noted with a snicker. Kiba! Sakura rolled her eyes and raised her fist as if she was going to punch her teammate. I'm just kidding. The Inuzuka raised his hands in defense as he started to sweat nervously in fear of his teammate. I know Lee would have kicked mine too if we fought back then. Kiba then brought his right hand to his head and started to scratch it. You know, I don't know. Sasuke's probably gotten better during the last month, but so has Lee probably. This should be a much more interesting match than their last time, though. Sakura didn't reply to Kiba's opinion. She focused her attention on the center of the arena. Sasuke had arrived and was now starting to get in position. Sasuke-kun. Good luck. You know, I've been looking forward to this match since our last one before the exams. Sasuke told Lee with a smirk. I underestimated you then. That won't happen this time. I would hope so. I want to be able to take you on at your strongest. It won't prove anything to anyone here if we don't fight each other with all we got, Lee informed the Uchiha as a grin of his own developed on his face. Then let's get right on with it. No more talk, let's begin. The Uchiha stated confidently as he got into position. YOSH. Lee exclaimed in agreement as he got into position to charge to Sasuke as soon as the match started. Ginma didn't waste any more time and raised his hand into the air. The match between Uchiha Sasuke and Rock Lee, begin. Sasuke quickly jumped backwards and started to make hand signs. Fire style, fireball jutsu. The Uchiha released a giant fireball from his mouth aimed for Lee. The taijutsu specialist proceeded to dodge the fireball and rushed forward to Sasuke's position. He attempted to punch Sasuke, but he managed to block with his arm. After blocking Lee's attack, Sasuke continued to jump backwards, making similar hand signs to his previous set. Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Sasuke released multiple, smaller fireballs that flew directly towards Lee. Lee proceeded to move quickly and dodge all of the oncoming attacks. Once again, he then charged Sasuke. Leaf Hurricane. Lee jumped towards Sasuke and attempted to high kick him in the Sasuke. The Uchiha avoided the kick, and then avoided another, lower kick that Lee attempted to make on him. The Elder Genin proceeded to try and land a punch again on the Uchiha. Sasuke blocked all of Lee's attempts to punch him and tried to place more distance between the two, but Lee kept rushing him. He made sure that the two genin were always in close quarters of each other. Hiya! Lee shouted as he attempted another punch at Sasuke's face. Lee's fist connected and Sasuke was sent backwards. The Uchiha responded to Lee's attempt by doing backflips once he landed on the ground at a rapid rate. When he finished, he placed a good amount of distance between the two. You seem pretty adamant about keeping distance. Lee noted. A different approach to how you tried to fight last time. It's your specialty. Sasuke answered, a grin that developed on Sasuke's face as he brought his hands to his shorts. He raised his shorts slightly, revealing weights on his legs. He then started to untie them. However, I guess this is getting nowhere fast if we keep fighting like this. I'll take you on, head on. Lee quickly glanced into the stands and looked for his sensei. Once he exchanged eye contact with Guy, the genin gave Sasuke a grin as he reached down for his own leg weights. Very well then. Let's see just how fast you are, Lee exclaimed as he took off his weights. Both Lee and Sasuke dropped their weights at the same time. The resulting weight from both of their sets crushed the earth, creating craters. Immediately after, the two genin charged at each other and attempted to land a hit on the other. Holy shit! Naruto gasped as he watched Lee and Sasuke fight. The waiting area was silent for a while as they all watched the taijutsu fight between the two competing genin. Both Sasuke and Lee were moving extremely fast and were engaging in fast-paced combat. Each of them were blocking each other's attacks while subsequently trying to land a hit of their own. Nearly all of the competitors were impressed with the speed and strength of both fighters. And you're telling me I'm going to have to fight one of them later? Shikamaru, quickly, realized his predicament. Fan-fucking-tastic, good luck next match, lazy ass. Kuratsuchi commented, not looking away from the fight. When did Sasuke-kun get that fast? Sakura gasped as she watched both Lee and Sasuke fight against each other. I trained him too. Kiba, Akamaru, and Sakura gasped at the sound of their sensei's voice. They turned away from the fight briefly to see Kakashi sitting in the seat behind them. He gave them a small wave and a smile from behind his mask. Where the hell were you? Kiba questioned with a growl. Akamaru barked, expressing the same irritation as his partner. Sorry about that. I kinda slept in today, and by the time I got here, there was a really long line in the concession stand. But I skipped breakfast this morning, so I had to wait so I could get something to eat. Kakashi told his students as he ran his left hand through his hair sheepishly. Liar! Kiba and Akamaru barked in unison. You trained Sasuke-kun to run and fight like that? Sakura questioned Kakashi, bringing the topic back to the match. Kakashi turned his attention towards the kunoichi on his team and nodded. Sasuke needed to move this fast if he wanted to even stand a chance against Lee. So, I pushed his body as far as he could go. We trained him with weights and I had him to try to mimic my own speed and fighting style. Kakashi explained how the training month went to his students. I'd say Lee may still have an edge on Sasuke in terms of speed, but Sasuke's not slow enough for Lee to really pounce on him. He's just fast enough to really give him a proper fight. I'll say. Kiba hollered as he turned his attention back to the match. I mean, damn. Look at them go. Sasuke. Sakura smiled to herself as she watched her crush move and fight. You're so cool. I must say, you have indeed gotten better. Lee complimented Sasuke in the midst of their fight as he attempted to land another punch. Damn right. I worked my ass off for this fight. I'm not going to lose, especially not in the first round of the exams. No way in hell. Sasuke exclaimed to Lee as he blocked Lee's fist and attempted to kick the spandex-wearing genin. You've realized just how much hard work and dedication matter to shinobi. I am pleased to hear that. Lee actually smiled sincerely as he blocked Sasuke's kick. You are a great opponent, Sasuke-kun, and I respect your determination. Lee's smile then developed further into a smirk. However, this is where our match ends. Lee disappeared in an instant. With Lee no longer attacking him, Sasuke made two-hand sign for a jutsu as fast as he could. Just as Sasuke finished, Lee appeared right below him and delivered a kick that knocked him upwards. I'll end it with the lotus dash. Lee's thoughts ended as he looked upward. Sasuke was no longer floating in the air. Wait, what? Where is he? A circle of leaves surrounded Lee for a moment. His vision became hazy for a few seconds, but it returned to him shortly after. The bushy-browed genin then realized what was happening. He must have used the shunshin or something. He's hiding from me. Lee quickly scanned the area around him and could not find the Uchiha anywhere. To his eyes, it seemed as if Sasuke had just vanished from the world. He's here somewhere. Below? Lee wondered as he looked downward. Behind? Lee turned his head to check. Still, there was no sign of him. I'm right here! Sasuke's voice exclaimed. Lee turned in the direction of the voice, but it was too late. The Uchiha delivered a punch to his jaw that sent the genin flying backwards. Lee hit the ground hard. He tried to stand up afterwards, but his body wasn't letting him. The taijutsu specialist's eyes widened as he tried his hardest to stand up, but all of his attempts were failing. What's going on? I know he didn't hit me that hard. Why can't I get up? Lee continued to struggle to stand up. His mind could simply not process what was happening. The winner of the match is Uchiha Sasuke. Once again, showing that hard work is not enough. A true shinobi also needs the right bloodline and genius to succeed. Genma spoke up, announcing the winner and giving a lecture. What? Lee's eyes widened at the declaration. He attempted to get back up and speak up, both to show that he could still fight and to reject Genma's statement, but his body refused to move and his mouth wouldn't open. There was nothing he could do. Something's not right. What? What's going on here? Lee! Guy jumped down to the arena and stood directly in front of Lee. He looked down at his student with visible disappointment in his eyes. Guy-sensei. Lee attempted to respond to his sensei, but he couldn't open his mouth still. We spent days, weeks, working so hard, but it wasn't worth it. You just couldn't do it. Guy sighed in response as he started to walk away from his student. I guess you taught me something, Lee. I need to stop encouraging false ideas in my students if they are only destined to fail. Gi-sensei. Lee's eyes widened at the words of his sensei. Visible tears started to roll down his eyes as he tried his hardest to scream in protest. Ah! Lee screamed loudly before he fell to the ground, unconscious from the shock. Sasuke stood next to his body, a smirk evident on his face. Demonic illusion, hell viewing jutsu. Genma quickly rushed over to Lee's body to make sure he was, truly, knocked unconscious. Once he confirmed Lee's condition, he quickly pointed towards Sasuke. Winner of the third match, Uchiha Sasuke. The crowd cheered loudly, louder than the two previous matches. Sasuke's smirk became smugger as he started to walk out of the arena. Just as he was exiting the battlefield, however, he turned his head back to look at Lee's body. Sasuke's genjutsu presented Lee with some of the worst fears in his heart. The Uchiha was very well aware of what Lee had just witnessed, and considering what he knew about the boy, he knew precisely how Lee would feel and react to it. While Sasuke was content with it, knowing that the shock was enough to knock Lee unconscious and win him the match, he felt a small pain of guilt about using the technique. Sasuke had, indeed, developed a bit of respect for the taijutsu specialist, and knowing that he attacked the very thing the Sasuke respected in Lee, the Uchiha felt a small pang of guilt. It can't be helped. That's how a shinobi fights. Sasuke shrugged to himself before he officially left the arena. Sasuke-kun. You did it! Sakura smiled in relief as she watched Sasuke leave the arena. Okay. You taught Sasuke genjutsu? Kiba questioned Kakashi. Yeah. Kakashi shrugged in response. The Uchiha shinobi were also renowned as genjutsu experts, so I figured Sasuke should at least be familiar with the art. I see. Kiba nodded in acceptance. Pretty devastating technique, don't you think though? It is, but it's also a relatively basic one for genjutsu. There are much worse he can learn if he truly has an interest in the subject. Kakashi noted. He then turned his attention to Sakura. How about you, Sakura? Were you interested? Huh? The kunoichi looked at her sensei in surprise. Interested? Your near-perfect chakra control would make learning genjutsu easier for you. It's a talent that we could cultivate, and it could make you a truly devastating kunoichi, her sensei explained. He then gave her a smile as he looked at her intently. Well? Would you be interested in learning that jutsu Sasuke just used, and maybe some more genjutsu? Interested. Sakura was truly impressed with Sasuke and all that he was able to do, but she had also felt like she was outclassed watching him and Lee. She felt trivial and weak next to everything he could do. Hearing her sensei tell her that she could accomplish one of the techniques that Sasuke was able to do and that she could become an expert in a field made her excited. A fire burned in her eyes as she nodded fervently in response to her sensei's question. Yes. Of course. We'll begin tomorrow once the exams are over then. Kakashi informed her with a smile. Genjutsu. Guy frowned as he watched his student get escorted out of the arena. Guy-sensei? Tenten noticed Guy's tone of voice and turned her attention towards him. Guy didn't immediately respond. His mind was running through different scenarios in his hand, where he helped Lee more with his understanding of genjutsu and how to counter it. In a world where he taught Lee this information, would he have gotten out in time and managed to keep fighting Sasuke? And maybe managed to defeat the Uchiha? It was all hypotheticals, but Guy genuinely believed it would have happened. In his mind, Lee lost because he didn't properly prepare him for the fight. Guy-sensei? Tenten repeated her sensei's name louder. Concern was now evident in her voice. Huh? What? Guy turned his attention towards Tenten. He then laughed nervously to her. Did you say something, Tenten? Are you okay, sensei? She asked him with slightly narrowed eyes. I'm fine, Guy replied after a few seconds. He then gave her the nice guy pose. I'm just thinking about things I can change with my teachings. There is so much more that I need to teach you, Lee, and Niji, and I will make a concentrated effort to work on these things once the exams end. Okay. Tenten sighed in response. Guy's mood seemed to flip-flop within seconds. It was interactions like this that made her wonder if she would ever understand him, or Lee for that matter. You know, I have to admit, Sasuke did a good job, Naruto commented, offering praise towards the Uchiha's fight. Shikamaru's eyes widened as he quickly made a hand sign. Kai! What are you doing? The Uzumaki questioned. Sasuke must have hit us all with a genjutsu as well. That's the only way I can ever see you giving him a compliment. This can't be real life. The Nara explained as he made the same hand sign. Kai! Oh, shut up! Naruto rolled his eyes. Both Hinata and Kuratsuchi giggled at the banter between the two boys. He really was pretty impressive, you know? He's going to be a lot of fun to fight later in the tournament. Kuratsuchi smirked in response. Yeah, well, I'll trade places with ya. I'm not looking forward to that fight next round, Shikamaru grumbled. I'm sure you'll do fine, Shikamaru-kun. Hinata informed the Nara. She placed her hand on his shoulder to reassure him. Shikamaru scoffed in response. Hinata, at first, frowned at his reaction. Then, an idea entered her head and she started to giggle. Then again, you need to stop being a lazy butt and actually work for that victory. Shikamaru's eyes widened at what Hinata said, and he immediately shook his head. Hinata, don't you get started on that shit too. I already have enough people calling me out on that stuff. What? She's just stating a fact. You're a lazy ass. Kuratsuchi deadpanned. She's right, you know? Naruto nodded in agreement. Hinata expressed her agreement as well. Troublesome people. Shikamaru grumbled to himself, which earned laughter from his friends. Lee. Niji shook his head as he watched Sasuke enter the waiting room again after his match. Hopefully now, you understand that destiny cannot be changed. No matter how hard you work to fight it, certain facts were set in stone by fate. A genius will remain a genius and a failure will always be a failure. Niji turned his attention to a group of genin in the waiting room, the members of Team 3 and the IWA Kunoichi, Kuratsuchi. He watched them talk and laugh amongst each other as they discussed the Uchiha's victory and what the rest of the tournament. Niji watched Hinata giggling with her teammates and smiling. He glared directly at her. Hinata seemed so different than how she was nearly a year ago. Her time was seemingly changing her personality. However, no matter what Hinata does to try and change herself, Niji knew the truth. She was the failed heiress of the main family. Nothing was going to change that fact. She was going to prove herself a failure. At the moment, it seemed like she had forgotten that fact about herself. It was about time she was reminded about the path destiny had planned for her, Hinata-sama. It's about time I teach you the same lesson Lee learned. Niji tightened his fists as he thought about the next match. Chapter 26: Destiny of the Hyuga. The fourth match will begin shortly. Will Hyuga Hinata and Hyuga Niji please come forward? Genma called out the names of the next participants. The members of Team 3 and Kuratsuchi, who had been in the middle of a conversation, stopped talking. Hinata's eyes widened and her heart started to beat rapidly. Well, it's time, she told herself. Hinata's eyes wandered to her cousin. Niji was staring intently, giving her a glare. Once he noticed that she was looking back at him, a scowl developed on his lips as he shook his head at her. He then started to walk towards the exit of the waiting area, towards the stairs. Hinata continued to watch her cousin as she started to imagine the fight that they were about to have. Hey, Hinata-chan! You good? The Hyuga was snapped out of her thoughts at the sound of her crush's voice. She turned her attention back to her friends, who were looking at her in concern. She gave them a small smile before speaking. I'm fine, she told them, resisting the urge to sigh. You better be. You got a fight to win. Kuratsuchi started sharply with a grin. The Hyuga looked downward for a moment before she gave her friend a grin of her own. Right. Think calm during your fight, Hinata. From what I've heard, Niji loves to psych out and toy with his opponents. Go in with a calm mind and just fight, don't listen to a thing he says. Shikamaru advised. I know. Hinata frowned slightly at Shikamaru's advice. She was very well aware of Niji's tendency to toy with people he didn't respect. Hinata, unfortunately, was on that particular list and was used to Niji's taunting. You have this fight in the bag otherwise. That's what I think at least. Shikamaru continued with a smirk. Just don't let him get in your head. Go out there and kick his ass. He's right. Naruto nodded in agreement. The Hyuga turned her attention towards the Uzumaki. Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled and placed his right hand on her shoulder. You've gotten a lot stronger during the month. I can just tell. So go out there and show your jackass cousin just how much. Show everybody here Databeo. A small blush developed on the blonde's cheeks. Do your best. Naruto-kun. Hinata quickly gave her teammate a hug, one he was quick to return. A blush developed equally red as Naruto's developed on her face as another grin crossed her lips. Watch me out there and cheer me on, okay? Of course. Naruto replied. The two broke their hug soon after. Hinata waved goodbye to her friends before she walked out of the waiting room and headed for the stairs. Once the girl was finally out of the area, Both Shikamaru and Kuratsuchi turned to face the blonde. The two of them had matching, cheeky grins on their faces. Naruto noticed the looks they were giving him and tilted his head in confusion. What? He questioned. So, should we be expecting a declaration of love once she gets back up here, or immediately after the match when she's still on the battlefield? Shikamaru asked teasingly. What are you? Naruto's cheeks reddened further as his two friends started to laugh. He then started to scowl at them. It's not. You guys. We're just. Shut the hell up and stop laughing, Databeo. Much to his chagrin, Shikamaru and Kuratsuchi did not stop laughing. If anything, the laughing grew louder. Hinata went down one flight of stairs on her way to the battlefield. She was about to go down a second flight of stairs when she noticed Niji standing at the bottom, glaring at her. Niji Nizan. Hinata mumbled her cousin's name in surprise. I wasn't expecting you to wait for me. I felt that we should talk, away from your teammates. I'd rather they not influence your answer. Niji told her, his glare never ceasing for a second. You should surrender now while you have the chance. Huh! The Hyuga heiress's eyes widened. We both know exactly how this will go, Hinata-sama. He sneered when he said her name. Your friends may have tried to hide the fact from you, and maybe you believed it for a moment, but you can't hide from fate for long. You have always been a failure amongst the clan, and nothing you do or anyone says can change that. Niji's glare intensified as he continued to speak. So, I'd advise forfeiting now before you humiliate yourself and the clan further and get yourself injured. For a moment, Hinata's eyes lowered as she recalled her training with the Hyuga clan when she was younger. She remembered all the disappointment she brought to her father and the elders of her clan. She even heard conversations about them considering removing her title as heiress and passing it down to her sister, Hanabi. She knew that Niji was right, she was a failure. But that's all in the past. I'm not that girl anymore. She told herself sharply as she brought her eyes back forward towards her cousin and started to walk down the stairs. I'm not going to forfeit. Her cousin raised his eyebrows in response. I won't quit. I will give it my all and fight you, Niji Nizan. Because I'm not the girl I was before. I have friends who believe in me now and know what I can do. Images of Naruto, Shikamaru, Anko, Kuratsuchi, Roto, and Han entered her head. But also, the Hyuga also started remembering her own training during the month with her father. I also believe in myself, and I know I can do anything if I try hard enough. Humph. Niji scoffed in response. I'd be careful with your beliefs, Hinata-sama. Such thoughts may get you killed one day. Hinata shook her head in response. It's not harmful, it's the truth. I can fight you, Niji Nizan, and I want to show you who I really am. I want to show you that anybody, from people like me to people like you, can change their fate. Tell that to every member of the branch clan. Tell that to my father. Niji hissed, his eyes darkening exponentially. Walk up to his memorial and tell him that his fate could have been changed. Hinata's determination and confidence started to fade and her eyes went downward again as she recalled her uncle, Hizashi. The circumstances behind Hizashi's death were a sore subject for her, but an even sorer subject for Niji. Niji Nizan, the Hyuga heiress, arrived at the bottom of the stairs. Once she arrived, the two cousins started to walk together. Hinata opened her mouth to respond to Niji's comment about his father, but she was cut off by Niji, who decided to speak up first. If you are actually going to fight me, then I can't guarantee your safety. I will fight with everything I have, he informed her sharply. Hinata looked upward again and nodded at her cousin. I expect nothing less. The elder Hyuga scoffed in response, but gave no verbal reply. The two cousins remained silent as they continued walking. The clan elders of the Hyuga clan all sat together in the stands of the arena along with Hayashi and his youngest daughter, Hanabi. They watched the previous fights with slight interest, but they were now staring at the arena with their full attention. It was now time to see the heiress of the main branch fight the prodigy of the branch family. The elders started to whisper to each other about their predictions and expectations for the upcoming fight. Watch this fight closely, Hanabi, Hayashi requested to his daughter. There is no fight you can learn more from than this one right here. Right. Hanabi nodded in understanding. Who do you think will win, father? Hayashi did not respond immediately, as he truly pondered that question. He had been wondering this question since he started his training with Hinata. For the first week, he knew that his nephew would be the one who would be victorious. Now, however, he watched his eldest daughter reveal a whole new side to her that he was unaware existed. He saw the full extent of her determination and strength. There was no denying that Hinata was much stronger than he had ever expected her to be. He had earned her respect no matter what, even if she lost to Niji. The only question is, did she get strong enough? Can she match Niji? Hayashi continued to repeat the question. The match will start soon. We shall see once it starts. Hayashi finally spoke his thoughts. Since she was in public and didn't want to act in a way that went against the Hyuga clan's normally stoic image, Hanabi resisted the urge to frown at her father's answer. Instead, she turned her attention to the center of the battlefield. Unlike her father, her thoughts were much simpler. Good luck, Nae-san. Hinata. Kurenai mumbled the name of the Hyuga heiress as she watched her and Niji step forward to the battleground. You know, Kurenai, I always wondered, how exactly do you know my student? Anko asked curiously as she briefly turned her attention to her friend. I never actually introduced you to any of them when I picked them up, so what gives? I've been acquainted with Hinata for about 2 or 3 years now. Hokage-sama asked me to look after her one day and investigate some of the treatment the Hyuga clan elders may have given her. Kurenai sighed. Anko sighed in response. Things have been better with her clan and her father, but I did read her file that she was bad off when she first started. The clan elders didn't like her much at all. No. They wanted her removed as heiress. And her father seemed as if he was going to do nothing to stop them, until now that is. Kinda late though in my opinion to decide to turn your attention back to your daughter and decide to act like a father. The red-eyed Jonin rolled her eyes slightly. Her eyes softened, though, as she turned to look back at the Hyuga heiress. I was actually planning on picking her up this year as a genin student. Believe it or not, I was actually jealous that you got to be her sensei instead of me. I can understand that, Anko nodded. A small smile developed on her face. She's a great girl and she's going to be an amazing kunoichi, considering the kick-ass one she is already. I'm pretty damn lucky to have her as a student. The Tokubetsu Jonin then placed her hand on Kurenai's shoulder. She's a tough girl. Just watch, she's going to show all those dumbass elders in her clan how tough she really is. She dash. If you two actually want to see what she is capable of, then shut up. The match is about to start. Ibiki spoke up irritably, interrupting their conversation. Anko and Kurenai immediately quieted themselves and paid attention to the battleground as they waited for the two Hyuga to start their fight. Both Hinata and Niji had already talked before their match on the stairs. They had nothing left to say. Once they got on the battlefield, they simply stood across from each other and waited for the proctor to signal the beginning of the match. The fourth match between Hyuga Hinata and Hyuga Niji. Denma raised his hand. Begin. Byakugan. Both Hinata and Niji exclaimed in unison as they activated their dojutsu. The two Hyuga genin proceeded to get into position and ready to fight. Niji entered the standard gentle fist stance while Hinata entered a similar, yet slightly different, variant of the stance. Niji immediately noticed the slight changes and his eyebrows rose. So I suppose it was true, Hinata-sama was working on a variant of the gentle fist. Niji let a small grin develop on his face. An interesting idea, but in the end, it is futile. Niji didn't waste any more time and charged his cousin. Hinata quickly sidestepped out of the way of his palm and proceeded to strike at him with a palm strike of her own. The Hyuga prodigy blocked her attack with his arm and attempted to attack her again, this time aiming for the tenketsu in her chest. Hinata managed to dodge by leaning back. She then attempted to sweep him off his feet with a kick, but her cousin quickly jumped backwards to avoid her attack. Seeing that Niji put distance between the two of them, Hinata quickly started making hand signs. Water style, gunshot! Hinata released a rapid-fire barrage of water bullets from her mouth aimed directly for her cousin. Niji's eyes widened at the sight of the jutsu for a second, before they narrowed in concentration. He proceeded to avoid each individual water bullet before charging again at his cousin. I was interested in seeing your variant style of the gentle fist, but even you know that it's not worth anything if you've already resorted to using other techniques. Niji taunted as he raised his palm, ready to attack Hinata. The Hyuga heiress didn't respond immediately as she focused on sidestepping and avoiding Niji's palm. She then managed to strike her cousin with a palm of her own, hitting some of the tenketsu in his shoulder. The elder Hyuga winced as he quickly moved backwards to avoid another attack from Hinata. I'm not resorting to anything else, Niji Nizan. I want my fighting style as varied as possible, with different types of attacks, Hinata explained as she quickly got back into her stance, ready for Niji's next attack. TSK. She made the first hit. Niji shook his head in frustration. I let myself lose focus for a moment. That won't happen again, Hinata-sama. Niji, once again, charged at his cousin. Hinata quickly sidestepped, avoiding his attack. Niji, however, predicted her dodge and struck again faster at his cousin. Hinata wasn't able to avoid his attack and managed to get struck in her shoulder. The elder cousin managed to land a hit at her tenketsu. She winced from pain, but responded back immediately, and delivered a palm of her own at her cousin. She managed to deliver a quick hit at his tenketsu in his right arm before he could jump away from her. She hit again. Niji mentally cursed as he glared at his cousin. He noticed that she was still wincing a little from his attack, which let a small grin develop on his face. However, looks like I managed to hit her harder. Niji's attacks are ruthless. I have to be more careful. Hinata told herself with a shake of her head. Be more mindful, Hinata. I can't take too many and lose this easily. I have to prove myself to everyone here. Naruto-kun, father, and Niji. The two Hyuga proceeded to charge each other as they attempted to land attacks at each other. Whoa! Hanabi mumbled in surprise. All of the Hyuga in attendance had their Byakugan activated as they watched the fight in detail. Both Niji and Hinata were constantly attacking each other. Niji was the one to instigate the fights while Hinata would usually try to avoid his attacks and strike back with her own counterattacks. Every few seconds, the two cousins would jump backwards and start up again fresh, continuing to try and land hits at the other. Hinata's evasion appeared to be working well, and she was able to avoid most of her cousin's onslaught. A few of Niji's attacks would land, however, and the heiress would usually wince in pain at them as more and more of her tenketsu were being sealed off. Niji, however, was also getting hit by Hinata's palms. The Hyuga prodigy was starting to get some of his tenketsu sealed off as well. It was impossible to determine which of the two had the advantage. From the perspective of the Hyuga observers, the match was even. I have to admit I wasn't expecting Hinata to be a match for Niji. Isn't he the best of his generation? One of the elders questioned as he watched the fight intently. While that is true, he is just a member of the branch family. It's almost an insult that Hinata hasn't won already, considering she is of the main house. Another elder scoffed in response. Saying that is a disservice to both Hinata and Niji. The two are proving to be extraordinary so far. A third elder spoke up, rejecting the previous elder's claim. I have to agree with him. A fourth elder nodded in agreement. And I must say, I was expecting to see Hinata lose a direct fight with Niji like this. Her new style suits her well. It's giving her a chance to fight him directly. Hinata. Niji. Hayashi was too wrapped up in his thoughts to respond to the bickering and comments amongst the elders. He was too focused on the battle between his eldest daughter and his nephew. I'm landing my hits on him, but I'm taking too much of his hits myself. I need to try something else again. Hinata told herself as she jumped backwards, away from her cousin. Niji, once again, charged his cousin. Hinata jumped backwards to avoid his next strike again. Once Niji rushed up to her again, she made hand signs. Water style, gunshot. Hinata released another barrage of water bullets from her mouth once the elder Hyuga was in close range to her. Niji's eyes widened and he was forced to jump out of the backwards to avoid the attack. The Hyuga heiress took the opportunity to place more distance between her and her cousin as she pulled out her bow. She quickly grabbed an arrow and fired it at her cousin. She then proceeded to fire more arrows at him as she started to run in circles around him rapidly, always changing her position and the direction of the approaching arrows. Archery? I also heard you were practicing with that, but I really didn't think even you would try something like that in a fight with me. What an absolute waste of time. Niji mentally scoffed. His Byakugan made him aware of all of his cousin's attacks, despite her constant movement. He proceeded to duck and sidestep, avoiding all of her arrows. Nevertheless, Hinata continued to fire away at him. A few seconds passed before Hinata stopped firing arrows. Niji was now standing in the middle of 15 arrows that were lodged into the ground. All of them had managed to miss their target. The elder Hyuga smirked smugly at his cousin and was about to charge at his cousin once again, but he noticed something in the corner of his vision. His eyes quickly went to one of the arrows and he noticed the tag on it. Explosive tags? Niji realized with wide eyes. He then looked over to another arrow and noticed the same tag. They were all prepared with explosive tags. Ha! Look at Niji's face! Naruto smirked as he watched Hinata's display with the arrows and the explosive tags. He looks like he just pissed himself. Hinata-chan got one over him good. I wonder where she got that idea from, though. Kuratsuchi rolled her eyes as she looked at the Nara in the waiting room. Surely not from somebody who overuses those things to death. Explosive tags are a great tool and should be used by everybody. Shikamura huffed in response with a surprising amount of passion. Just as he was getting annoyed with people calling him lazy, he was also annoyed that he had to constantly defend his usage of explosive tags. It only makes sense that Hinata would see that too. She's the only other sensible one here that would see them like me. What did you say? Naruto and Kuratsuchi nearly shouted in unison. The three could have continued their argument, but they stopped to continue watching Hinata's fight. The Hyuga heiress was really showing everyone exactly what she was capable of, and all three of them did not want to miss anything else she had to show. Naruto, especially, didn't want to miss a second of the match. You got him on the ropes, Hinata-chan. Keep it up. He mentally cheered for his teammate. What are you going to do now, Niji-Nizan? Hinata wondered as she made a hand sign, activating the explosive tags. Niji realized that he needed to get out of the way and avoid the explosive tags, but he wasn't certain if he could jump out in time without taking some damage from them. He shook his head as the only way to avoid taking the hit entered his head. I can't believe I was forced to use this against you, Hinata-sama. I was hoping to save this ace up my sleeve for a later fight, but it can't be helped. TSK, Niji thought bitterly. The Elder Hyuga quickly started to spin in place rapidly as the explosive tags started to detonate. Rotation! A shield of chakra appeared and surrounded Niji as he spun in a circle on the ground. The shield developed in time before the explosive tags activated, protecting him from the resulting explosions. Once all of the tags were activated and used, the Elder Hyuga stopped spinning and the chakra shield disappeared. He stood in the middle of multiple holes in the ground, from his jutsu and from the explosions, completely uninjured. There's no way! One of the elders nearly shrieked at the sight. The entire population of the Hyuga elders bickered amongst each other about the sight they witnessed, and the probability of it actually happening. Father, that was… Hanabi mumbled in surprise. 8 trigrams palm rotation. A jutsu only passed down orally amongst the main branch of the Hyuga. Hayashi replied to Hanabi's surprise. The Hyuga clan head was now gaping at the sight as he stared at his nephew intently. Niji. So this is what the other members of the clan mean when they say Niji's a genius. Hanabi realized. To accomplish such a task and perform such a jutsu with no instruction. Hizashi, your son is truly a genius. Hayashi closed his eyes and shook his head back and forth. I am so sorry that you aren't here to witness him for yourself. Niji. That was… Hinata's eyes were wide in surprise. The Hyuga heiress activated the explosive tags knowing full well that Niji would somehow be able to avoid the attack, at least somewhat. What she didn't expect was for him to use the rotation, a technique that she was having a difficult time performing in general. Yes, it was. Niji nodded, answering Hinata's unfinished question. A cocky smirk developed on his face. Ironic, isn't it? You, a member of the main household, are having difficulty performing that jutsu despite the help of your father. Yet I, a member of the branch family, managed to learn how to use the jutsu without any assistance from the clan. Niji-Nizan. You did it. Hinata couldn't help herself. She smiled at her cousin. Excuse me? The elder Hyuga gave a confused look. You fought back against your fate, she explained. She noticed her cousin gritting his teeth and him tightening his fists, but she continued to speak. She knew that Niji needed to hear this. Fate put you in the branch family, but you fought back and learned a technique reserved for the main household. You didn't let destiny hold your genius back. You kept trying and learned something outside of what you were told you were capable of. Hinata's smile grew wider. You defeated your own destiny. Shut up. Niji nearly growled in response. You. How dare you? How dare you pervert my training and example to fit your beliefs? His glare intensified as he stared down his cousin. Nothing can change fate. I was destined to learn this technique by being a genius and a prodigy. And you are destined to be unsuccessful because that is what you are, a failure. Nothing can change their fate, Hinata-sama. Her cousin spat her name out as if it was poison. My father couldn't change his, I can't change mine, and you most certainly can't change yours. Niji charged his cousin again immediately. The elder Hyuga struck her at a rapid rate, and she wasn't able to avoid his palm strike to her chest. She was knocked backwards slightly and coughed up blood slightly. He then struck at Hinata again, aiming for another tenketsu point by her chest. The Hyuga heiress, this time, was able to jump backwards to avoid Niji's next palm strike. She was then forced to sidestep and continue her dodging as the Hyuga prodigy continued his onslaught, not wavering even for a second. Such rage. It's causing him to move faster and fight more ruthlessly. Hinata realized as she continued to try and avoid Niji's attacks. She didn't even have the time to try and counterattack him. He was attacking her that fast. Niji Nizin. How do you have so much anger? Hinata continued to try and place more distance and get to a place where she could attack Niji back, but her cousin wasn't giving her the opportunity. His attacks continued at great speed and Hinata couldn't do anything to stop him. I could maybe try that. That'll work. Hinata realized. I just need to distract him even for a second. As Hinata continued to dodge his techniques, Niji finally let up for just one moment. Hinata had managed to insult his beliefs, and by association, everything he viewed about his father and himself. The Hyuga prodigy was infuriated and was no longer interested in fighting her. He wanted to end the fight now and crush her and her belief about fighting back against fate. This fight ends now, Hinata-sama. Niji spoke coldly as he entered a new stance. You are within my field of divination. Hinata's eyes widened once again. Niji Nizan, that's just... How? He's even capable of dash. She then shook her head as she entered another stance of her own as realization hit her. Wait, this is the chance I was looking for. 8 trigram, 64 palms. 2 palms. Protection of the 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Niji's first palm strike, laced with his own chakra, made direct contact with the stream of chakra released from Hinata's palm. The collision of chakra created a small explosion that surrounded the two Hyuga. Dust started to cover the area around them, completely hiding their fight from the observers. Hinata-chan! Naruto shouted in a mixture of awe and fright. What the fuck just happened? Damn! Shikamaru shook his head. Hinata, be careful, what the fuck? Enko's eyes widened at the sight of the explosion. What jutsu does she know that can cause that? Hinata. Be careful. Kurenai closed her eyes for a second as she thought of the Hyuga heiress. Hinata Nizan! Hanabi nearly screamed as soon as the explosion occurred. Hinata. Niji. Hayashi shook his head at the sight, both of Niji's use of the 8 trigram 64 palms and from Hinata's use of her completed, original jutsu. Great things are going to happen from both of you. You are the 2 best shinobi the Hyuga clan has produced in years. Amidst the dust, Niji was hit by a barrage of chakra streams coming from Hinata's palms. The Hyuga heiress was moving her palms and the rest of her body at a quick, circular pace. The Hyuga prodigy was getting cut up by the resulting streams, but he didn't let it stop him from his attack. He continued to try and land his own palm strikes from his jutsu on his cousin. Each of his attempts failed, however, as every single palm strike was blocked by the streams of chakra and resulted in him getting cut up further. What is this jutsu? Niji questioned to himself, as he grit his teeth in pain. This can't be happening, it can't. Hinata finally ended her jutsu and pushed her palms forward, releasing all of the streams forward. Niji was hit full force by the streams. The Hyuga prodigy was cut deeply by them and was sent flying. The dust that covered their fight was cleared at that moment, as Niji flew backwards. The elder Hyuga hit the ground hard and rolled for a few seconds before he finally stopped rolling and lied on his stomach. With her jutsu completed, Hinata finally stopped moving in place and nearly fell to the ground herself. She was breathing extremely hard and was having trouble standing upward. She, too, was also slightly cut up from her own jutsu, a sign that she still needed to work on improving her technique. I don't think I can do much more. Please let that be it, she thought to herself amongst her heavy breathing. All eyes were on Niji. The elder Hyuga's clothes were cut deeply, and he was bleeding quite a bit from any of his exposed skin. Despite the great damage, the Hyuga prodigy continued to try and stand up and continue fighting. I'm not done, he told himself as he forced his body back. He finally pulled himself back to his feet and stared intently at Hinata, who was looking at him with surprise evident in her eyes. I won't give up here. Niji's thoughts stopped as he tried to take a step towards Hinata. He quickly fell to the ground and hit the surface hard on his stomach again. Once again, The elder Hyuga tried to get back up. This time, however, he failed to stand up and managed to hit the ground again. No! His eyes widened as he realized what had happened. Ginma seemed to come to the same realization as he made a quick checkup on Niji's condition. He then held out his hand towards Hinata. Winner of the 4th match, Hyuga Hinata! Ginma's declaration was met with a roar of applause from the audience. 3 for 3! Anko nearly screamed. Yeah, Hinata! Way to fucking go! Ibiki didn't even bother to complain this time about Anko. He simply massaged the temples on his head with his hands, trying to avoid the headache that he knew Anko was going to give him. Hinata! Kurenai let a small smile develop on her face as she watched Hinata stare out into the crowd of people applauding her. You've really gotten stronger. The proctor of the 2nd exam turned her attention briefly to her friend. Anko was still screaming and cheering for Hinata due to her success in the match. Kurenai couldn't help but chuckle as she stared at her best friend. I don't know how much of her strength came from her friends or from anyone else, but I know you certainly helped her out. Anko, thank you? Kurenai made a note to thank her friend when she calmed down and stopped screaming. Unfortunately, she would have a while to wait before that happened. Anko was going to be shouting and cheering for what seemed like a while. Yeah, Hinata-chan! Naruto cheered loudly from the waiting area as well, shouting just as loud as his sensei. I knew you could do it! That was actually really badass. Kuratsuchi commented with a grin. Hinata fought like a true badass. Are you really that surprised? She's always had it in her. Naruto called out to the IWA Kunoichi. He had a giant grin on his face that seemingly was not going away anytime soon. No, I'm not. I'm just saying, Kuratsuchi replied with a chuckle. She had always seen Hinata as a friend since their mission at the Tenchi Bridge, but she was now starting to look at the girl with even more respect as a shinobi. I really want to fight her myself, honestly. You and fighting. Shikamaru rolled his eyes for a second before he turned his attention to Hinata. The Hyuga was currently staring in their direction with a bright red blush. More than likely, she had heard Naruto's cheering even over the crowd of other people's applause. The Nara waited until her eyes flickered over towards him. He gave her a thumbs up, a gesture she was quick to return. Hinata. In all the time we've been friends, I have to say, you've grown up. You're a lot tougher than anyone, even you, gave you credit for. Shikamaru noted internally as he smiled at his friend. Now hopefully you'll realize that yourself. Hinata had not been prepared for the cheering and the applause, so she managed to awkwardly look and blush as she looked at all of the people cheering for her. To her, she felt like she was on cloud 9. She managed to find her teammates and Anko and smiled back to them, but shortly afterwards, she got out of her daze and entered the real world again. Once she walked over slowly towards Niji's body. Medic ninjas were already entering the scene and were preparing to escort him out to the infirmary. Niji Nizan, Hinata called out to her cousin as he was being lifted. The Hyuga prodigy didn't say anything for a second as he glared at Hinata. He still couldn't really move properly, thanks to being hit so hard directly and up close by Hinata's jutsu. A few seconds passed before his eyes started to relax. Instead of a glare, he simply looked at her bitterly. I was wrong about you, Hinata-sama. You were not the failure I saw, I was. I failed to read your fate, and this was the result of my ineptitude. Niji, don't talk like that. Hinata shook her head, dropping the use of his honorific. That got his attention as he looked at her without the bitterness. You weren't wrong. I used to be weak. I used to be a failure. I wasn't strong and I could barely function after training. And I used to not believe in myself. I knew I was a failure back then. She then smiled at her cousin. But that's not who I am anymore. I have friends who helped me get my confidence. I have gotten stronger and trained harder than I ever thought I could. I've gotten stronger than I ever thought I was. And for the first time in my life, I can say that I know that I am not the failure that I thought I was. If I was destined to be a failure, then I have changed my destiny. I fought back at fate and won. Just like you did when you learned both the rotation and the 64 palms. Hinata explained as tears started to fall from her eyes as she slowly became more passionate in her speech. Niji. Fate can be changed. I changed mine and you changed yours. And together, we can change the fate of the Hyuga clan, for both branches. Niji's eyes widened in complete shock after Hinata's declaration. He barely even noticed that the medic ninjas had lifted him up and put him on a stretcher. He didn't even notice that he was being carried away. Niji! Hinata called out to him as he was carried out. She brushed away her tears and gave him a smile. Please! Don't forget that. Niji couldn't even respond as he simply watched her while he was escorted away from the battlefield. As soon as Niji was escorted out of the battlefield on his stretcher, Hayashi stood up from his place in the stands. Hanabi quickly looked over to her father. Where are you going? She asked him. I have business to do. It won't take long, he replied quietly as he walked off. Hanabi sighed, wondering why her father seemed to have been acting strange during the entire match. Once he left, she was left alone with the Hyuga clan elders. None of them were paying attention to her and were still just talking amongst themselves about what they thought of the match. Realizing that she didn't have anyone to monitor how she was acting, a large grin developed on her face and she squealed slightly in excitement. Hinata Nizan! That was so cool! She told herself as she starting to clap slightly with the rest of the audience. I hope that I become as amazing of a shinobi as you are when I'm your age. It took Hayashi about 5 minutes to arrive at his destination, the infirmary in the stadium. The Hyuga clan leader went to open the door, but the door opened from the other side. Kurigane Risho walked out, bandaged up and seemingly okay to walk after his fight with Naruto in the first match. The IWA Genin noticed Hayashi's presence almost immediately, and realized that he was blocking the door to the room. Pardon me. He mumbled an apology as he started to walk down the hallway of the stadium. Hayashi took a moment to look at the retreating boy before he returned his attention to the door and opened it. He then entered the infirmary. A few medic ninjas were in the room attending to both Lee and Niji. Lee was still unconscious from shock after the genjutsu during his fight. Niji, on the other hand, was lying on a bed as the medic ninjas finished applying bandages. About another minute passed before they finished and noticed Hayashi's presence. Hyuga-sama, one of the medics bowed in respect. Niji will be fine. We have his wounds bandaged already and already conducted most of the necessary jutsus needed on him. We'll give him a checkup in around 30 minutes, and if all is good, he will be cleared to move around. Thank you. Hayashi bowed his head in thanks. If you are good for a few minutes, do you care if I talk to him in privacy? I realize it can't be long. This will only be for a few minutes at most. Of course. The medic replied before making a signal to his coworkers. They all proceeded to leave the room. Hayashi and Niji were now alone in the room together. Niji sighed at the sight of the clan head. He wasn't in the mood for company, especially the company of his uncle. However, fate seemed to have other plans. There was an awkward silence in the room for the first few seconds that was broken by Niji. You did an excellent job with Hinata-sama during your training with her this month, he admitted, looking downward slightly. As expected of the clan head, but your eyes are much stronger than mine. While mine only saw her as a failure, you saw the potential she really had and helped her develop it. You were aware of her true fate, while I was not. The Hyuga prodigy proceeded to shake his head in shame. My eyes still need to develop further. Niji, you and I are very similar in a way that I wish we weren't. Hayashi replied with a sigh. His comment gained the attention of Niji, who was now looking at him in confusion. Like you, I saw Hinata as a failure. She was my eldest daughter and I should have seen who she really was better than most, but I saw her as too gentle and kind. She didn't seem like she could ever be a proper Hyuga shinobi, so I turned my back on her. I allowed her to train with others, like Narashikaku, because I didn't want to bother with wasting my time. The Hyuga clan head proceeded to shake his own head out of embarrassment and disappointment in himself. I can't say I did a good job this month with her in all honesty, Niji. I saw her similar to how you did. Then what changed your perception? Why were you willing to give her a chance to see what she could do? Niji questioned. She changed my perception. She made herself more capable. Hinata did everything she could to get tougher through the help of others and through her own work. She changed who she was on her own, and showed that I was being blind in how I saw her, Hayashi stated bluntly. Niji's eyes widened at the comment. Referring to a Hyuga as blind was one of the sharpest insults possible. For his uncle to refer himself with such a comment meant that the man truly felt shame with how he acted and saw Hinata earlier. I didn't do anything to change my perception of her. She did all by herself. She changed how I saw her fate. She changed her fate. Hayashi continued to clarify. I see. Niji closed his eyes at Hayashi's statement. He repeated the same statement Hinata had been telling him. Just like Hinata, he was telling him things that directly contrasted with how he viewed life. For the first time in his life, Niji really had no clue what he was supposed to think about something. Niji, I haven't been a good father to Hinata. And I haven't been a good uncle to you, Hayashi commented sadly as he looked at his nephew. It's time you and I had a talk about your father and the truth about what happened that night. My father? Niji's eyes widened as he stared at his uncle. A mixture of emotions entered his eyes: confusion, sadness, and anger. Hayashi didn't say anything. He simply pulled out a scroll from his pocket and handed it over to his nephew. Hinata was still sore after her fight, and her climb up the stairs to the waiting area was a slightly slow one. When she reached the waiting area, however, she was met with a large hug. Hinata-chan! Naruto chanted her name as he picked her up and swung her in circles. Congrats! The Hyuga heiress's face burned a bright red and she put a conscious effort into not fainting in her crush's arm. Once she was able to accomplish that, she started to return the hug and let a large smile cross her lips. Thank you, Naruto-kun, she told the Uzumaki as she laid her head on his shoulders. I heard you cheering for me during the fight. Of course you did. I was the loudest one here, Dadabayo, he told her as he set the girl down on the ground. He then showed off a grin of his own on his face. You seriously kicked ass out there. Really, great job. Heh. The Hyuga heiress giggled slightly in response. Surprisingly, she wasn't feeling as sore as she was when she walked up the stairs. Instead, she was just happy to be with her crush. I'm glad. I worked hard for this match. And it showed. Kuratsuchi and Shikamaru were both to the side, watching their two friends talk to each other. Both of them exchanged knowing glances. Hinata's confidence is at an all-time high right now, Shikamaru noted to the IWA Kunoichi. She'll probably just up and confess once the whole exam is over. I give it a week longer tops. I give it even less time than that. I say she'll do it today and probably before the exams finish even, Kuratsuchi told the Nara with a snicker. Father. Niji reread the scroll for the 6th time. After he had finished reading the scroll and learned that his father had chosen to die, not for the main family but to save the life of his brother and to choose his own destiny, Hayashi bowed his head and begged for his forgiveness. Niji, in the moment, gave it to the man. The Hyuga head soon left the room, leaving the Hyuga prodigy alone while he waited for the medics to come back and continue working on him. You were able to choose your own destiny in the end. Niji turned his attention away from the scroll and looked outside the window in the room. He noticed a few birds flying up into the sky to a nearby tree. I don't know. I don't know what I believe about anything. Fate, destiny, life. What anything means. I thought I knew everything and could see everything, but I learned today that I didn't see everything from my cousin, from the girl who I blamed your death on. Tears started to roll down Niji's eyes as he continued to watch the birds. I wish you were here, father. I wish you could see these birds fly. I wish you could have seen my fight with Hinata-sama. I wish you were so I could just talk to you, father. I don't know exactly what there is to life right now. Everything I had ever believed in is now under question. But maybe my fate is also undetermined. Maybe I can have it go in a new direction. A smile graced Niji's lips. Whatever the way it may be, I know that I will follow Hinata-sama's example. I will follow your example. If there is such a thing as fate, then I will choose my path. Niji continued to watch the birds fly as he waited for the medics to come back. For the first time in his life in years, a weight had been lifted from his shoulders and he felt truly happy. After letting the two talk amongst each other for a moment, Shikamaru and Kuratsuchi joined Hinata and Naruto and congratulated the Hyuga on a victory. A few more minutes of conversation passed by before Genma spoke up, interrupting their talk. It is now time for the next match. Will Sabaku no Gaara and Kankuro please come forward? He spoke up. Immediately after those words were spoken, Kankuro came forward on the balcony and shouted loudly for the proctor to hear. I forfeit, he exclaimed. The reaction was instantaneous. The crowd started booing and complaining. After 4 rather exciting matches, they were not excited to see someone up and quit. What the hell, man? You're quitting like that? Naruto called out to the Tsunegenin. Yeah? I'm not fighting Gaara. No way in hell! Kankuro shouted back to the Uzumaki. You could at least try to fight him. It's a waste of a spot for you to be here then, Kuratsuchi hissed at the puppeteer. Bite me. I could give a rat's ass. Kankuro snapped at her, rolling his eyes. Both Kuratsuchi and Naruto glared at the Tsunagenin, but didn't say anything else. Nothing was going to change the puppeteer's mind, and it was already too late anyway. He had already announced his surrender. Realizing that same fact, Genma decided to raise his hand. The winner of the 5th match, by forfeit, Sabaka no Gara. The audience started to boo loudly in response again. Once everything calmed down, Genma spoke up again. We will then begin with the next match immediately. Will Kuratsuchi and Uzumaki Naruto please come forward? He announced. Chapter 27, A Showdown Between the Future Kage. Once Genma announced the next match, Naruto and Kuratsuchi turned to face each other. Due to the excitement of the other matches, the two had forgotten about their upcoming match. Both of the genin silently stared at each other intently for a few seconds. Well, it's about damn time. Kuratsuchi broke the silence as she let a grin develop on her face. I was getting kinda sick just sitting up here while everybody else gets their turn to kick some ass and fight. Hey, you as well? Naruto laughed lightly in response. Don't say you as well. You at least got to go against Risho earlier. I've had nothing so far. The IWA shinobi whined. You two seem more battle-hungry than usual. Shikamaru noted with a chuckle. Hell yeah, I am. Kuratsuchi declared loudly. Naruto nodded excitedly, expressing his agreement. Both Shikamaru and Hinata laughed at their friend's excitement. The two of you should have a good fight. Give it your all, both of you. Hinata told them with a smile. Yeah, do your best and stuff. Shikamaru nodded in agreement. Of course. Naruto exclaimed to his teammates. Will do. Kuratsuchi answered confidently. After saying goodbye, Naruto and Kuratsuchi left the waiting room together. The two of them were moving fast, not making any effort to hide their excitement for their match. Once the two of them had left, Shikamaru and Hinata turned their attention to each other. Who do you think will win? Hinata asked the Nara curiously. Hard to say. Naruto's tough, yeah, but so is Kuratsuchi. I don't think we got to see everything Naruto learned during the last month, but we also don't know what Kuratsuchi can do. Shikamaru shrugged in response to Hinata's question. A smile then developed on his face. All I do know is that the two of them are going to give each other hell down there, and probably give us all a show to remember. Hinata giggled in response to Shikamaru's answer. The two teammates then turned their attention downward to the battlefield as they waited for their friends to arrive and begin their match. The Hyuga was rooting for both Naruto and Kuratsuchi to do well and look good to all of the people watching. She wanted to watch both of them do well and earn their promotions. However, she had to admit, she had one person she was rooting for over the other. Naruto-kun, you can do it. She mentally wished her crush good luck. In their excitement for their match, Naruto and Kuratsuchi rushed down the flights of stairs. After they got down to the ground floor, Kuratsuchi stopped walking and turned her focus towards the Konoha genin. She then started to dig into her pockets and pulled out a small pill. Hey Naruto, take this. She called out to him. The blonde turned his attention back to Kuratsuchi. He noticed the pill immediately and gave the girl a curious look. What is it? Naruto asked as he studied the pill. A soldier pill. Kuratsuchi answered as she extended her hand further, urging Naruto to take it. I know your body and chakra levels are probably fine right now after your fight with Risho, but there's a chance you may still be a little tired or weakened from the fight, and I don't want that. I just want to make sure you're completely ready for the fight. He gave her a confused look. Wouldn't you rather me not be in my best condition to fight? That'd give you a better chance of winning. That'd give me a better chance to win, yeah, but that win wouldn't mean anything. Kuratsuchi replied, shaking her head. We're all here to show what we are capable of as shinobi. I want to fight my opponents at their strongest. Anything less is not good enough. The kunoichi brought her hands together, slamming her left hand into her right palm. I want to see exactly I can do in a fight and see how I compare to the other shinobi here. So, I don't want you to not be in your best condition. I want you to come at me with everything you got. Naruto blinked in surprise for a second before he let out a laugh. The Uzumaki really respected Kuratsuchi's logic and thought about the exams and testing herself. With that thought in mind, Naruto took the soldier pill and put it into his mouth. Like I told Shikamaru and Hinata-chan, I'm going to give it my all. Don't worry about that. He told his friend with a grin on his face. You're one of the people I've been most looking forward to fighting for a while, Kuratsuchi, so I'm ready to see what you can do. I've been looking forward to fighting you for a while myself, Naruto. I've been interested in what you can do ever since the mission in Kusa no Kuni, and I finally get to see all you can do firsthand. Kuratsuchi replied, matching his grin with one of her own. By the way, feel free to use as much chakra of the Kyuubi as you want. Trust me, you're going to need it. Oh? Naruto's eyebrows raised in response. We'll see if you can push me that far. 'Cause I plan on just simply kicking your ass with or without it. I'd like to see you try. She retaliated. The two continued to trash-talk each other as they walked the final steps towards the battlefield. Despite the nature of their words, the two had nothing but respect for each other. As a result, they were going to respect the other as a fighter, and fight as hard as they could. Somehow, their excitement for their match increased. The blonde. Uzumaki Naruto. I'm curious how he will handle this match. The Kazekage commented from the Hokage's sitting area. I'm curious myself. Hiruzen commented with a smile on his face. Naruto-kun really impressed me with his fight against Risho-san earlier, so I want to see what else he is capable of. Hated to break it to you too, but the blonde isn't going to do well this match. He's going to get his ass handed to him. Anoki spoke up. The Tsuchikage had a smirk on his face as he watched the two combatants enter the battlefield. My granddaughter is going to give him absolute hell down there. Oh yes, she is your granddaughter. The Kazekage noted in response. How confident are you in her? I already know she has more skill than the average Chunin. Maybe even more than that if she got better this month. Anoki answered proudly. This exam is just a formality for her to get her promotion. You speak very highly of her, Anoki. Hiruzen commented with a chuckle. The Sandaime Tsuchikage nodded in response. Although he would be the first person to comment about how Kuratsuchi can be an annoying, stubborn brat, he also knew just how capable she was. He also knew that she was going to become a great shinobi in a few more years. Anoki was proud of his granddaughter, and he was excited to watch her fight and, in his mind, earn her promotion. Hiruzen continued to chuckle. As he looked at both Naruto and Kuratsuchi in the battlefield, he recalled the circumstances of the Third Shinobi World War. Years later since the end, Konoha and IWA shinobi were now together again, ready to fight in a non-fatal battle. Seeing both Naruto and Kuratsuchi together made the Hokage think that both the people of IWA and Konoha were ready to put the war to the past and focus on the future. The Hokage also noticed a coincidence in the opponents, and chuckled to himself. The granddaughter of the Sandaime Tsuchikage versus the son of the Yondaime Hokage. This match should be the most exciting one yet. The Sandaime Hokage gave the two genin his full attention as he was ready to see how the fight would go. Did Kuratsuchi's training go well, Rashi-san? Roto questioned the Yonbi Jinchuriki. Of course it did. Rashi exclaimed in response. Gotta say, though, Kuratsuchi is a natural. She's amazing with the lava style, and she picks up on general lessons and theories faster than most shinobi I've ever worked with. She's going to be an absolutely lethal shinobi one of these days. I would agree with that. Han nodded in agreement. I must thank you for the assistance with her, Rashi. I knew you would be able to train her in her specialties more than I would be capable of. Hey, don't thank me. I'm glad to help out the next generation of shinobi whenever I can. The red-haired man laughed in response. Roto remained quiet as he watched Kuratsuchi stand on the same battlefield that Risho had fought on. The genin was imagining himself standing there in her place against Naruto, or some random other shinobi. He was proud of his teammates for making it this far, and he was not upset that Hinata had beaten him in the preliminary exam. However, the civilian-born shinobi was starting to feel like he was not as skilled as his teammates. Both Risho and Kuratsuchi came from prestigious families in IWA and managed to make it this far, a task he was unable to do. Although Risho lost, he knew that he performed better than Roto would have if he made the finals and, according to how Rashi was talking about her, it sounded like Kuratsuchi would do better as well. I'm not going to get too far behind. Roto shook his head in frustration. Do your best, Kuratsuchi. Just know that I'm not going to far fall behind you or Risho any longer. Remember Naruto, give me your all or I'll kick your ass. Hard. Kuratsuchi declared to the blonde as they faced each other on the battlefield. And again, I'd like to see you try. Naruto replied with a smirk. The two genin stopped conversation after their brief trash-talking and got into position to fight. Ginma realized that the two shinobi were ready to face each other and, as a result, raised his hand into the air. Let the final match of the first round, between Kuratsuchi and Uzumaki Naruto, Begin! The proctor exclaimed as he lowered his hand. Naruto and Kuratsuchi responded immediately by jumping backwards and making hand signs. Shadow Clone Jutsu! Earth Style, Earth Clone Jutsu! 20 shadow clones of Naruto appeared directly in front of him in a poof of smoke. As his clones were formed, 5 clones of Kuratsuchi were created as mud from the ground forged itself into her clones. Upon their creation, all sets of clones charged at each other while the original versions of Naruto and Kuratsuchi remained back. Naruto's clones outnumbered Kuratsuchi's, but hers appeared to be stronger. The first clone of hers was punched by one of Naruto's clones, but, instead of dispelling, it grabbed the clone's hand and pulled it closer to her and delivered a punch of her own. It dispelled immediately. The clone then joined the remaining clones of Kuratsuchi's in the group of fight against Naruto's. Her clones were a lot more durable, being made from the ground, and took a lot more attacks before they were destroyed. A few seconds past the battle of the clones ended. All of Naruto's clones were destroyed by the stronger clones of Kuratsuchi's. 2 of hers remained, still able to fight. Once they had finished attacking the clones, they proceeded to charge at the real Naruto. The Uzumaki quickly brought his hands together and made hand signs. Wind Style, Great Breakthrough! Naruto released a giant gust of wind from his mouth that collided with the clones. A second upon impact, the 2 earth clones fell apart back to mud. Once her clones were destroyed, Kuratsuchi proceeded to charge Naruto herself. By the time Naruto finished his jutsu, the kunoichi was already right in front of him. He was barely able to block a punch to the face. He retaliated by trying to punch the girl in her face, but she was able to block his attack as well. She responded by trying to do a sweeping kick and knock him to the ground, but Naruto jumped up and avoided the attack. He then continued to jump backwards and toss shuriken and kunai at the girl. Kuratsuchi quickly pulled out a kunai of her own and used it to block the incoming weapons. She then immediately tossed her weapon at Naruto, who was able to roll out of the way of her kunai just in time. Fast reflexes. Naruto complimented with a smirk. That's what I should be saying to you. Kuratsuchi returned his compliment with one of her own. She then started to make more hand signs as she charged him once again. But let's see just how fast they really are. Lava Style, Quicklime Jutsu! Kuratsuchi breathed out the corrosive quicklime gas from her mouth. The gas floated through the air towards Naruto quickly. Naruto, in response, made hand signs of his own. Wind Style, Wind Release Stream! Naruto blew out a stream of wind from his mouth that collided with the approaching quicklime gas clouds. The wind's force was strong enough to halt the gas and reverse its direction, causing it to flow back towards Kuratsuchi. The Iwa Kunoichi, in response, made another set of hand signs. Water Style, Water Trumpet! Kuratsuchi released a jet of water from her mouth towards the approaching quicklime gas clouds. The water both created enough force to stop the wind that was propelling the gas forward and hardened the corrosive gas into a wet cement-like substance. This new substance flew in the air towards Naruto. His eyes widened and he jumped out of the way just in time. The gas made contact with the ground instead, causing it to harden further and dry. I'm not falling for the same tricks you used during the preliminary matches, Naruto informed Kuratsuchi sharply. Good. I'd want to have more of a challenge, the Iwa Kunoichi replied with a smirk. Naruto responded to Kuratsuchi's comment by pulling out another shuriken from his pocket. The Iwa Kunoichi immediately did the same, waiting for him to strike first. Well, like they said, they're going at it hard, Shikamaru commented with a chuckle. I don't think they have let up once since the fight started. They're incredible. Hinata commented in awe as she continued to watch her friends. The 2 of them had just tossed their shuriken at each other. Both weapons made contact with each other, effectively canceling each other out. They're good, I'll give them that. The 2 members of Team 3 turned their heads to see Sasuke approaching them. The Uchiha had kept mostly to himself during the matches as he watched the fights in one of the corners, but he finally felt like approaching someone to talk about the current match. Sasuke-san? Hinata greeted their fellow genin and former classmate. Shikamaru acknowledged him with a nod. Sasuke nodded back, returning their greeting and acknowledgement. He then started to speak again about the fight. What's really impressive is that neither one of them have made a single hit on each other. They're fighting carefully, yet intelligently. Yeah, I get the sense that they're just playing around and feeling each other's fighting style out. They're waiting for somebody to make the first mistake. Shikamaru noted. The question is, though, which one will make that mistake? The Uchiha wondered aloud as he turned his attention to the fight again. Naruto. I always saw you as our class dope, and I can see you aren't now. You better win this. I want to see just what you're capable of for myself. The Uchiha told himself with a grin on his face. Damn. Han, Rashi, and Roto turned their attention away from the fight at the sound of a newcomer's voice. Walking towards their area in the stands was Risho. The Kurigane shinobi was walking slowly, but he eventually made his way and took a seat at the edge of the area. Risho, how are you doing? Han questioned immediately. The medics gave me the okay to leave the infirmary. I'm fine. I just need to take myself a little easily for the rest of the day. The Kurigane sighed in response. I see got out just in time to watch Naruto fight my teammate. Yeah. Rashi nodded. They're pretty even so far. It's actually an interesting fight. I've noticed. Risho sighed in response. Risho. About your clan dash. Han started to speak. Han-sensei, can we not talk about that now? The match is going on. Risho stated sharply. Han remained quiet for a few seconds before he nodded in understanding. Even though he was making more an effort, the IWA Jonin was still bad with human interaction and didn't really know how to approach truly comforting somebody. Therefore, if Risho wanted to not talk about it, he would not force the issue. He would wait until he wanted to say something. All he could hope for was that he'd be of actual help. The IWA swordsman had many thoughts running through his head based on his fight with Naruto and his view of Konoha. Naruto had beaten him soundly, but after the fight, the Uzumaki managed to compliment him. While he knew his cousin and the rest of his clan would be ashamed with his loss, Naruto saw him as an honorable fighter and even expressed an interest to fight him again one day. The same blonde who had defeated him was now fighting Kuratsuchi. Risho had to admit that the girl was stronger than him and probably was the best shinobi IWA had in their generation, yet she and Naruto were even. What was more curious to the Kurigane was that, based on the expressions on their faces, the two of them were having fun. They were having a fierce fight, an IWA shinobi and a Konoha shinobi, but they were enjoying every second of it. For the first time in his life, Risho was seeing a fight between IWA and Konoha that seemed truly friendly. And based on the reactions of the audience members around him, everyone seemed truly interested in it, not to root for the Konoha or IWA shinobi, but to simply see who won. Maybe there is hope for Konoha and IWA. Risho wondered to himself as he continued to watch the fight. He had many thoughts running through his mind, but he wasn't going to let them stop him from watching a fight that he was heavily interested in. Naruto and Kuratsuchi continued throwing shuriken and kunai at each other, trying to land a hit on each from afar. Each weapon collided with the other, canceling their attacks. They were locked into a stalemate. Once again, both Naruto and Kuratsuchi pulled out a shuriken and tossed at the other. This time, however, Kuratsuchi made a series of hand signs. Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu! Immediately, 50 clones of the shuriken appeared next to the one Kuratsuchi tossed. All 50 of them were flying in the air towards Naruto. The original shuriken Kuratsuchi tossed made contact with Naruto's shuriken, canceling each other out, but the other 49 continued on their path towards the Uzumaki. What the fuck? That's a jutsu? I need to learn that. Naruto made a mental note to look up the jutsu. He then shook his head and scolded himself as he made a hand sign. But that's for later, Naruto. Gotta get out of the way. Naruto quickly disappeared right as the shuriken was about to make contact with him. He then appeared directly behind Kuratsuchi, using the shunshin. A grin developed on his face as he attempted to deliver a kick at the IWA kunoichi. His grin immediately faded from his face as she disappeared, just as he did, right as his kick was about to make contact. Wait, she can use the shunshin too? Naruto realized, his eyes widened. Shit, I should have. Naruto's train of thought was interrupted as he received a direct punch to his face. Kuratsuchi had used the shunshin herself behind Naruto to land a hit on him the same way he did. The Uzumaki was hit with enough force that he was knocked into the ground hard. Kuratsuchi responded by rushing up to him, making hand signs of her own. The IWA kunoichi released another quicklime gas cloud from her mouth. She then proceeded to make more hand signs and released another jet of water from her mouth. The water, once again, combined with the gas and formed a cement-like substance that was flying towards Naruto, who was still getting up. I need to get out fast. Naruto realized as he made a quick set of hand signs. Earth-style, headhunter jutsu. Naruto's body proceeded to sink into the earth. He was completely underneath the ground when the cement-like substance hit, causing it to harden and dry once again. The headhunter jutsu? Kuratsuchi said the name of his jutsu with a frown, realizing he had saved himself. She proceeded to pay attention to the ground, waiting for Naruto to come out and preparing for whatever his next attack was going to be. A few seconds passed by, however, and Naruto was not coming out from the ground. The IWA Kunoichi was now starting to become impatient. "I'm not going to wait forever, Naruto," she grumbled in response as she made hand signs. "If you aren't going to come out and fight me face to face, then I'll just force you out." Just as Kuratsuchi was about to finish her jutsu, the ground underneath her broke up and Naruto jumped out of the ground and tried to deliver a punch to her jaw. Kuratsuchi's eyes widened as she jumped backwards, reacting just in time. She proceeded to reach forward, grabbing Naruto's jacket with her right hand and pulling him closer to her before he could jump away. She tightened her grip and brought her left hand into a fist. "Thought you could sneak attack me, huh?" Kuratsuchi questioned with a grin. "You were close, but not close enough." Despite the situation he was in, Naruto didn't outwardly respond to Kuratsuchi's taunt. Instead, he simply smirked in response. "Sure about that?" The ground, once again, broke apart underneath the two. Another Naruto jumped out, attempting to punch Kuratsuchi in the jaw. This time, the attack connected, knocking Kuratsuchi upward and releasing the Naruto from her grasp. The kunoichi coughed up blood slightly from the attack. The Naruto that had been freed proceeded to jump upwards and deliver a kick to Kuratsuchi's stomach, knocking her back down to the ground hard face first. Once again, she coughed up blood, staining the ground slightly. "Ah, fuck!" Kuratsuchi hissed in pain as she pulled herself upward quickly. She managed to stand up just in time to avoid attacks from the two Narutos. She delivered a kick to the stomach to one of them, causing it to disappear in a poof of smoke. Once it was just her and the original Naruto, she got back into position to fight. "So I take it when you went down underground with the headhunter jutsu, you made a shadow clone, knowing that I would only expect one attack from underneath the ground?" The girl questioned him about his strategy. "Yup, and it seemed to work. I got you to let your guard down for just a bit," he stated with a smirk. "Heh. Heh. Ha ha." Kuratsuchi laughed cheerfully. "I gotta say, Naruto, I haven't had this much fun in a while from a fight. This is exactly the type of match I was wanting to have." Naruto grinned in response and couldn't help himself but laugh as well. "I feel the same way. You're really pushing me and keeping me on my toes. I gotta say, Kuratsuchi, but I hope we get to have this fight again one day when we're both Kage." "Hell yeah, we will!" The IWA Kunoichi laughed in response. The laughter soon stopped and both shinobi entered stances again, ready to continue with their fight. They then immediately charged each other. "Oh? Your granddaughter wishes to replace you, Inoki?" Hiruzen questioned the Sandaime Tsuchikage with a light chuckle. "She does, yeah?" Inoki sighed in response. "She probably has the raw talent to do so. She's got great chakra reserves, good variation in ninjutsu, a tactical mind in battle, and a real love and dedication to IWA. However, she's also rather naive when it comes to how the world works. She's too much of an idealist in my mind to be an effective leader. She's still young and needs to mature more before I can say for certain that she will become Tsuchikage. I can't say I know her well, but I'm starting to think that maybe she will accomplish that goal." Hiruzen spoke up with a sincere smile. "I can't speak about her goals, but she seems to have a good heart, and a sense of pride that I think any shinobi would be lucky to serve under. She'll make a great successor one day." "Humph," Inoki grumbled to himself. He partially agreed with his fellow Kage, but he didn't like really imagining Kuratsuchi as his successor. He wasn't ready to hand over his hat just yet, and Kuratsuchi, in his mind, really needed to grow up before he would ever truly consider letting her replace him. However, in the back of his head, he knew he might be too hard on her. Still, he wasn't going to think of the issue for too long. He had, at least, another 10 or 15 years left in his mind, and he wasn't going to bother worrying about a successor. In contrast to Inoki, Hiruzen was looking at the two as definite successors to them. He didn't know if Naruto or Kuratsuchi would be the immediate successors, but he knew that at some point, the two of them would be seen as Hokage and Tsuchikage respectively. And from what he was observing of their interaction, it seemed as if they would be able to do what he had been trying to do these past few years and fully restore relations between IWA and Konoha. These two are what their generation needs. Hiruzen smiled as he continued to watch them fight. Naruto and Kuratsuchi continued their fight with taijutsu. Naruto blocked a punch from Kuratsuchi to his stomach, and then jumped up to avoid a sweeping kick. He tried to kick her from above, but she managed to grab his foot. Immediately, he made the hand sign for the shunshin and disappeared just as Kuratsuchi was about to punch him. Naruto appeared right behind the girl and attempted to punch her. The IWA Kunoichi managed to turn around just in time and catch his fist with her right palm, stopping him from making contact with her. She then moved to punch him with her left hand as Naruto proceeded to use his free hand to punch her. The two attacks hit, causing both Naruto and Kuratsuchi to get knocked back further. They, however, caught themselves before falling to the ground. Both genin were breathing hard and starting to really feel the exhaustion. Both Naruto and Kuratsuchi were also starting to bruise and they both were starting to also bleed on their face. Despite their conditions, the two of them were grinning at each other. Looking pretty tired, Naruto. Had enough yet? Kuratsuchi asked between some heavy breathing. Or do I still need to give you more of a pounding? I can go on for days. It's you who might want to call it quits. You're looking pretty exhausted yourself. Naruto informed between his own breaths. I'm not quitting until either you lose or the proctor forces the match to end. The IWA Kunoichi replied as she started to make hand signs rapidly. Likewise. The Uzumaki exclaimed his agreement. Naruto had been paying attention to the hand signs Kuratsuchi had made for her other jutsus in order to recall what signs went with what techniques so he could predict her next attacks. This time, however, he couldn't predict what she was doing. She was going to use another new style of attacks. Therefore, he got into a defensive position, preparing for whatever jutsu Kuratsuchi was going to unleash at him. Lava style, scorching rocks jutsu! Kuratsuchi opened her mouth and released large balls of lava from her mouth. They hardened into molten rock before being sent flying toward Naruto. Holy shit! The Uzumaki cursed as he jumped out of the way just in time. The lava made contact with the ground, lighting the area on fire. He then turned to the IWA Kunoichi in surprise. Are you trying to kill me or something? They won't kill you. She shook her head as she made more hand signs. She was making an effort to not use the jutsu as lethally as it usually would be. However, they're going to win me this match, Naruto. So this is what you're working on with her Rashi? Han noted as he noticed Kuratsuchi's jutsu. Yup. The Yambi Jinchuriki nodded. If the kid's gonna work with lava-style ninjutsu, then she needs to stop working with that corrosive gas all of the time and start practicing on some real lava techniques. Is Kuratsuchi really sure that her techniques aren't going to kill Naruto? Roto asked with a slightly pale face. Because that shit looks like it'd melt his face off. Nah, it won't kill him. I trust Kuratsuchi knows what she's doing. She knows the limits with the jutsu and what is lethal and what is just painful. Besides, she'll probably douse the poor boy with water before anything truly burns him. Rashi answered with a hearty laugh. However, if that was an enemy that she had to fight to the death, I'm assuming she'd roast the poor guy before he or she knew what was happening. Roto's face paled even further at how much destructive capabilities Kuratsuchi's lava-style ninjutsu had. In contrast, Risho, who had been quiet for most of the entire match, seemed further interested with the fight. She'd melt through my armor. The Kurigane realized. So, how are you going to get your way out of this mess, Naruto? Hinata, calm down. You know Kuratsuchi wouldn't try and kill Naruto. And you know that if it turned life-threatening, the proctor would step in anyway. Everything's fine. Shikamaru told his teammate. Hinata nodded in understanding. The girl had started to sweat nervously for her teammate's life at the sight of the lava, but she knew, in the back of her mind, that Kuratsuchi wouldn't kill her friend. Disregarding the fact that they were friends, the IWA Kunoichi wasn't the type of person to even consider something like that. Naruto-kun. She mumbled her crush's name. While she was not nervous for his life, she was nervous for his chances in the match now. Be careful. You can still win this. Literal lava-style ninjutsu, huh? Sasuke was now staring at Kuratsuchi with even more interest. I'll want to look into this. The Uchiha clan, when they were alive, had a policy of not using the Sharingan outside of combat to copy other people's ninjutsu. While not every shinobi followed this code of conduct, and even Sasuke's father was somebody who broke this policy, it was still strongly discouraged as it was considered dishonorable to copy the techniques of somebody who wasn't a threat or enemy. Sasuke, to honor his clan, remembered this oath and resisted the urge to activate his Sharingan. However, in the back of his head, he was starting to hope Kuratsuchi won. Whether it's today or some other day, I'll look forward to fighting against you one day, Kuratsuchi-san. Sasuke told himself as he continued to watch the match. Lava style, scorching rocks jutsu. Kuratsuchi continued to unleash balls of hardened molten lava at Naruto. The Uzumaki was running around frantically, trying to avoid each attack. Each lava rock would get closer to hitting him, and would get the ground caught on fire. Finally, one of the lava rocks managed to make contact with Naruto's left leg. He hissed in pain as he cut off the part of his pants that were on fire as fast as he could. He managed to remove the part of his clothing fast enough to avoid getting heavily burnt, but the now exposed part of his leg was indeed burnt, and was not in its best condition. Naruto still winced in pain. It was then that Naruto also realized what Kuratsuchi had done. With each use of her jutsu, Kuratsuchi had caught different areas of the ground on fire. All these areas were now connecting and formed a circle that surrounded the Uzumaki. She had trapped him in the center. And thanks to Naruto's injured leg, he wouldn't be able to jump high enough to get out of the center. Damn it! He cursed. And that's game. Kuratsuchi smirked in response. The girl's face was red from using her jutsu multiple times, and she was sweating profusely. She was also breathing heavily. Despite her utter exhaustion, the girl was excited. She had managed to trap Naruto and, in her mind, was about to win. Not yet, it's not. No way in hell. Naruto shook his head, denying Kuratsuchi's claim. I'm not finished yet. Then show me what else you have left. Kuratsuchi informed as she made another set of hand signs. I'll just force him down with my quicklime jutsu and water trumpet combination. That way he won't get too much more injured than he already is. She thought to herself. Kuratsuchi quickly performed both of her jutsus in succession, creating the cement-like substance. She launched her attack towards Naruto. The substance managed to pierce the flames and headed straight for the Uzumaki to pin him down on the ground. As planned, it collided directly with Naruto. Unlike Kuratsuchi's plan, however, Naruto dispelled. What? Kuratsuchi's eyes were wide in surprise. She then scanned the entire battlefield, looking for the blonde. No fucking way. That couldn't have been a shadow clone. How did it not dispel from the burn then? No, he must have substituted with a clone or something. When the hell did he have time to make one? A realization then crossed Kuratsuchi's face. Wait, then where's the original Naruto? As soon as Kuratsuchi reached her realization, the ground under, once again, broke apart. Naruto jumped up and managed to grab the kunoichi by her arms and legs, making her unable to move. The girl's eyes were wide. How? Did you get underground? How did you replace yourself with a shadow clone? Kuratsuchi asked in surprise. Simple. Naruto responded with a smirk. As he spoke, 4 more clones jumped up from under the ground. When I went under the ground the last time and made that one shadow clone to sneak attack you with, I made a few more down there that I didn't have come up. You made extras? Kuratsuchi's eyes somehow grew wider. How did I not think about that? I thought they would have all attacked me if he made more. Damn it, I fucked up. Yeah. I wanted them under the ground, though, in case I needed to substitute with them. I could have maybe attacked you with them earlier, but I thought it was better for me to be safe and leave them down there in case I needed to use the substation jutsu. Naruto explained. I think it is game now. No, it's not. Kuratsuchi replied as she struggled to get out Naruto's grasp. You didn't surrender when I had you trapped, so I'm not doing the same. The Iwa Kunoichi continued to struggle to get out of his group, but her attempts were failures. Naruto realized that she wasn't going to stop until she was unable to stop fighting. Therefore, he had to end this match the hard way. I got an idea. This should end it. The Uzumaki thought. Naruto quickly released his grip on Kuratsuchi and pushed her forward. 3 of Naruto's clones immediately rushed forward and proceeded to kick the girl upward before she could move away. Nah, dash. Are you dash, too? Since the original Naruto still had a burn on his leg, the final clone of Naruto immediately rushed forward and jumped on the original's shoulders. It used his shoulders as a stepping stone to help him jump even higher, above Kuratsuchi. The clone then proceeded to kick the girl in the face, knocking her downward into the ground. Uzumaki barrage. Upon impact, Kuratsuchi proceeded to cough up even more blood onto the ground. She tried to pull herself up off the ground, but her attempts failed. The girl had barely any control of her body. Something's broken, No, scratch that, a ton of things are broken. Kuratsuchi realized as she closed her eyes, wincing from the pain. Damn, I was so close. Ginma rushed over to check up on the condition of the girl from IWA. He quickly came to the same conclusion and realized that there was no way she was going to be able to continue fighting. As a result, he raised his hand and pointed towards Naruto. Winner, Uzumaki Naruto, he declared. The applause was instantaneous and louder than it had been all day. Naruto Kyuen! Hinata nearly screamed after Naruto's victory was announced. Shikamaru immediately grabbed his ears and winced. Holy shit, what happened to the quiet Hinata I used to know? The Hyuga blushed in response, but quickly turned her attention to her teammate and smiled. Sorry, but how could I not be excited? Naruto-kun won and did amazing. He was amazing! And so was Kuratsuchi. The girl's smile turned into a slight grin. There's no way they both don't get promoted after that. Shikamaru nodded in understanding. Yeah, there's no way they don't. A smirk then developed on his face. They definitely kicked ass out there. I'll be stunned if they aren't promoted. Good job, Naruto. Shikamaru thought as he looked at his blonde teammate, who was still in the battlefield. He then turned his attention towards the IWA Kunoichi, who was still lying on the ground as Medical approached her. Good job out there, Kuratsuchi. How is he the Naruto from the academy? Sasuke told himself as he recalled the events of Naruto's last fight. A few seconds passed before a grin developed on Sasuke's face. You really have gotten stronger, Naruto. You'll be the perfect test to see where I stand right now. Motherfucking hell yes! Enko breathed out in relief. The Tokubetsu Jonin had been surprisingly quiet as she watched the match. She was just that heavily interested in a fight that seemed so evenly matched. Once the fight was over, though, and Naruto was declared a winner, she was finally able to be as expressive and loud as she felt. He won. He fucking won again. And kicked some major ass. She screamed. I mean, holy shit. Enko, this may or may not be the last time we associate with each outside of the TNI department. Ibiki grumbled, feeling annoyed and embarrassed by Enko's behavior. I'm sorry, but come on. Don't you feel excited after watching something like that? That was intense as fuck. She screamed excitedly. Naruto, your promotion is in the bag now. You too, Kuratsuchi. Don't be too hard on her, Ibiki. She's excited and getting even more excited with each match. Her students have all performed well. Kurenai informed her co-proctor. Aren't you proud of Naruto as well? 'Cause I certainly am at least. No, I am. Ibiki admitted. He let a small smirk develop on his face. The kid's tactics are phenomenal now. He'll make a great Chunin, and I have no doubt he'll move up the ranks again rather soon. I can't believe it. Kuratsuchi lost. Rashi mumbled with a frown. Damn. Wish I got here sooner so I could have trained with her more. There's nothing to be ashamed of, Rashi, Han told his friend. The Gobi Jinchuriki looked downward at the two fighters proudly. She fought well, Rashi. They fought well. They surpassed my expectations. She did, yeah. The Yanbi Jinchuriki sighed. He then looked over at the match. No, she did really well overall. And so did Naruto. I'm still looking forward to meeting him, you know? We'll introduce you two soon. You'll enjoy each other's company, I believe. Han chuckled. Han then turned his attention to the battleground and let a smile cross his lips underneath his mask. Excellent work, you two. Simply excellent. Naruto won. Roto realized. The IWA Genin knew Naruto was a Jinchuriki, a concept that actually intimidated him slightly. Still, Roto knew that Naruto was not from a shinobi clan. In his mind, that made Naruto a civilian like him. The civilian-born IWA Genin looked at Naruto with a light in his eyes. If you can get to where you got without the help of a clan, then so can I. I'll reach your level and Kuratsuchi's level. Just watch. Unlike the other IWA shinobi, Risho was paying attention to something other than the match. He was listening to the crowds of other people around him. That was a close match. Intense as hell. Can't believe that brat managed to pull that off. He's better than I thought he'd be. He's better than I think anybody thought. Still, that girl from IWA managed to do great. Honestly, she's a real kunoichi. Somebody I'd love to have on my team. She's a real strategist, just like Naruto. They both earn my respect. Each random person Risho listened to, He heard more and more praise given to Naruto and Kuratsuchi and their fight. The Kurigane realized that the people of Konoha were putting aside their feelings for IWA and respecting Kuratsuchi. They were starting to respect an actual IWA shinobi, despite the war. If they can put the war to the past, then maybe I should too. Naruto's right, Risho told himself as he let a smile grace his lips. He then proceeded to clap with the other people in the audience. Good job, Kuratsuchi. Good job, Naruto. After a few seconds had passed since he was announced the winner, Naruto waked over to Kuratsuchi slowly. His leg was still burnt, and his whole body was sore. He couldn't really move that fast. Nevertheless, he didn't let it stop him and reached the IWA Kunoichi just about the same time as the medical shinobi. Hey, Kuratsuchi! He called out to the girl. Kuratsuchi looked at the blonde and smirked at him. Hey, how are you doing? I don't know about you, but I feel like absolute shit. Can't really move anything in my body. I'm not that bad enough, but I've definitely been better. The Uzumaki responded with a slight chuckle. I'd be pissed if I was like this and you were all perfectly fine and stuff. The IWA Kunoichi commented with a slight eye roll. No, that's not the case. That was the hardest I've ever worked in a fight. You really pushed me hard during the match. Naruto complimented his friend. He gave her a small thumbs up. One of these days, you're going to be the best Tsuchikage IWA has ever had. Kuratsuchi's eyes widened at the compliment. She opened her mouth to respond to it, but she couldn't form the proper words. She only regained her ability to speak once the medical shinobi put her on a stretcher, and she was about to get escorted off the battlefield. I'll do what I can to be the best, she told him with a smile. And you're going to be the best damn Hokage Konoha will ever get. Congrats on the victory, Naruto. With those words, Kuratsuchi was escorted out of the battlefield, towards the infirmary. Naruto proceeded to walk off, having never felt prouder in his entire life after that match. Your granddaughter truly is impressive, Anoki. Hiruzen complimented the Tsuchikage on Kuratsuchi's performance. Anoki shrugged in response. The exam was really a formality for her. Kuratsuchi is good enough to be Chunin, and I always knew that. Her match just proved that point. A smirk then developed on his face. She did put on a good fight though. I'm impressed with her. And the Uzumaki kid. I would agree with that. Naruto was indeed impressive. The Kazekage added his thoughts. Hiruzen smiled as he thought about the match and the display of tactics and techniques Naruto could use. You're on your way to becoming Hokage, Naruto-kun. The Hokage told himself as he imagined the shinobi Naruto would become in the future. Anoki and Hiruzen continued to discuss about the match and their own shinobi. The Kazekage listened in with feigned interest. Underneath his mask, the man had a sinister grin on his face as he slowly turned his attention towards the battlefield, once again. My, what interesting shinobi we have here today. It's a shame that most, if not all, will have their bright futures taken away from them. He noted to himself. It's almost time. Gaara's match will be starting soon. And once it does, the plan will finally begin. Chapter 28 Final Moments. After Hyuga Hayashi left the infirmary, the medical shinobi entered the room and started attending to Niji once again. After they had finished their preparations, they informed the Hyuga prodigy that he would be able to leave the room in about 10 minutes before heading out of the room themselves to pick up another competitor from the exams. Niji, realizing that he was now alone, took the opportunity to reflect further on what Hayashi had told him and what his father had written him. He closed his eyes and prepared to meditate. Huh! Where am I? Niji's meditation did not last long. Rock Lee, who had been lying unconscious on one of the beds next to him, had just woken up. The spandex-wearing genin was now standing up out of the bed and was looking around the room. You're in the infirmary, Niji answered his teammate. Lee's eyes turned to the Hyuga. He stared at him in confusion. Niji? You were sent here after your match with Sasuke. Apparently, he used a genjutsu on you and knocked you unconscious with it. The Hyuga continued to clarify. Oh. Lee's eyes dropped as he now recalled what had happened to him. He remembered his fight with Sasuke and how, in his mind, it was going. The Uchiha had been able to match his speed and strength in the beginning half of the match, and he had truly impressed him. Lee was about to use the primary lotus and try to end the match when his world started to fade. Instead of real life, he saw a world where he was humiliated by the Uchiha easily and watched as his sensei rejected him and his work ethic. That was a genjutsu, huh? But it felt so real. Lee thought as he shook his head. Maybe because it is real, partially speaking. I lost then and there to Sasuke-kun and embarrassed myself. I couldn't beat raw talent. Thank you for visiting me down here, Niji. The taijutsu specialist mumbled quietly after a moment of silence. Lee, although I'm glad that you woke up while I was here so I could see how you are doing, does it really look like I was here just to visit? Niji asked. Lee looked up and turned his attention to Niji in more detail. It was then that the boy had noticed the various bandages on Niji's body, and some of the wounds that were visible on him. Even now, the Hyuga looked like he was in pain. Lee continued to study his teammate in shock. What happened to you? He asked in surprise. I lost my fight. Against Hinata-sama. His teammate replied. Hinata-san? Lee blinked in surprise. She fought well, like a true Hyuga. I was wrong about who she really was. She was no failure, Niji answered with a sigh. The boy shook his head and looked downward as he recalled the true circumstances involved with his father's death. I was wrong about a lot of things. As much as he didn't like Niji's comments towards other people, Lee always remembered everything the Hyuga had ever told him. He knew that Hinata was Niji's cousin and that he saw her as weak. Niji had often referred to her as a failure, and had even compared her to Lee himself on more than one occasion. Hearing that she, this failure that Niji criticized often, had managed to defeat him surprised Lee. In addition, to hear Niji claim that he was wrong about who she was surprised him even more. Lee started to speak, but he was interrupted by the sound of a door opening. The medical shinobi had brought in another genin, Kuratsuchi, the girl from Iwabikure. They laid her down on one of the beds and began treating her immediately. The girl had many open wounds and bruises on her body, and she seemed as if she couldn't move her body much. She had, apparently, broken multiple bones in her body. I take it that Uzumaki managed to defeat you? Niji spoke to the IWA genin. Yup. Kuratsuchi answered as she winced in pain from the medical shinobi working on some of her injuries. He gave me a hell of a fight. He managed to win again. Against both a shinobi from one of Iwa's great clans and against the granddaughter of the Tsuchikage. Niji mumbled to himself. I misjudged him as well, it seems. He won too? Lee's eyes widened even further. Tears of joy started to develop in his eyes. I can't believe I let that genjutsu make me doubt my beliefs. With hard work and dedication, you can accomplish anything. Hinata-san and Naruto-kun were able to do that against their opponents, so it's possible. And if they can do it, then so can I. I will reach their level and become a genius of hard work as well. Lee was now feeling more heated than he had been in his life. He was looking forward to getting back to training and improving himself. Although he may have failed in his match, his ideals were proven true by Naruto and Hinata, and he was going to train even harder to reach the same success they had and become a true genius of hard work. Naruto winced in pain. Naruto-kun, just take a deep breath. Hinata told her crush gently. It'll only sting for a little bit. The Uzumaki said nothing else as he watched his teammate rub some medicinal cream she had made on the burn he received on his leg. As Hinata had said, there was a stinging pain from the cream, but he could tell that it was working. The wound itself was starting to get smaller and actually clearing up. A minute had passed before she finished applying the cream. Once she was done, the burn was completely gone. She put the medicinal cream away and pulled out another jar of cream, one designed for cuts and bruises. She then started rubbing it on some of the wounds Naruto received elsewhere. Your creams are awesome, Hinata-chan. I can't believe you were able to make these. Naruto smiled at the girl while he praised her work. I'm glad they are able to help, Naruto-kun. She told him with a similar smile. She then turned her attention back to applying the cream, although I have to admit, I'm surprised that they are so potent. I didn't think they'd heal your wounds so fast. Probably because of the QB. It's amplifying the healing effects of the creams. Shikamaru realized. It only took another minute before Hinata had finished applying the creams onto all of Naruto's wounds. Once she was finished, Naruto gave her a thumbs up and a wide smile. Thanks a lot again, Hinata. I kinda really needed that. He told her cheerfully. Don't thank me, she told him, matching his smile with one of her own. And congrats again on the match. You and Kuratsuchi really did amazing down there. Yeah, I'll say. That was a really impressive battle. Shikamaru added his own thoughts. You definitely did a good job. I'll be stunned if you aren't promoted. Thanks. The Uzumaki laughed in response. But I'll be surprised if you two don't as well. You both kick serious but during your fights. Well, we have another set of matches to prove ourselves, Hinata told her crush. She then turned her attention towards Shikamaru. You know, Shikamaru-kun, if you win your fight, you and I will be fighting. If I win my fight. That's the key word. The Nara sighed. Sasuke is going to be held to fight. Naruto opened his mouth to respond to the Nara's comment, but he was interrupted by Genma's voice. It is now time to begin the second round. Will Nara, Shikamaru, and Uchiha Sasuke please come forward? The proctor announced. And speak of the devil. Shikamaru grumbled. You're not doubting yourself, are you, Shikamaru? Naruto questioned in surprise. Nah, I know what I'm capable and what I can do. I just think Sasuke is going to be a pain in the ass to fight. The Nara grumbled, placing his hands in the pockets of his pants. Don't think too much about that. Just go out there and fight. Nothing more to do than that. The Uzumaki informed him with a shrug. Naruto-kun's right. Just go out there and fight him and do your best. I'm sure you will do well, Shikamaru-kun. Hinata told him with a smile. And I'd actually like to try and fight you myself, which would happen if you win. So, do your best. Heh. Shikamaru smirked in response. I'll do my best, you guys. Don't worry about me. With those words, Shikamaru started to walk off and head towards the exit to the waiting area. Naruto and Hinata waved goodbye to him, wishing him good luck in his match. Seeing that Shikamaru was starting to head to the match, Sasuke left his own position in the waiting room and followed behind quietly, ready to begin their fight. And now it's time for Sasuke to kick another dude's ass. Kiba exclaimed excitedly. Akamaru barked in agreement with his partner. I must say, Kiba, I am impressed that you have so much confidence in Sasuke. Based on some of the things you say to him during our training sessions, I had assumed you really didn't think Sasuke was capable of anything. Kakashi commented nonchalantly. Hey, Sasuke is up there and he's representing Team 7. He's obligated to do well and show how good of a team we are. Kiba informed his sensei. So, he can't lose. He has to win this whole thing for the team and kick everybody's asses. Kakashi mumbled in response to his student's declaration. The Jonin pulled out a copy of his favorite book, Aika Aika Paradise, and started to read from where he last was. Damn it, Kakashi-sensei. Put the book away and pay attention to your student. Kiba and Akamaru both growled at their sensei. Sakura wasn't really paying attention to either her sensei or her teammate. She was simply looking down towards the arena. She watched both Sasuke and Shikamaru step onto the battlefield. Shikamaru did good, but I know you, Sasuke. If you were able to beat Lee, then you can definitely go farther. Do your best. She wished her teammate and Crush good luck. Your student looks miserable out there, Anko, Ibiki commented once Shikamaru and Sasuke took their positions to face each other in the center of the arena. That's how he always is. Shikamaru's a lazy ass and doesn't like to do work. He looked a little like this when fighting Shino, but now that he's already had a fight, he's going to look even more like that now. Anko informed the man with a sigh. It's no big deal though. When push comes to shove, he'll fight. He has enough pride to be willing to do so. And I'm sure he'll impress everyone here again. He's certainly a tactical fighter, if his fight with Shino was any indication. Kurenai added. I'm interested to see how he fares against the Uchiha heir. To be honest, I'm curious myself. Anko admitted as she looked intently at her student. Fight hard, Shikamaru, and I don't mean just tactically. I think you're really going to need to work to win this time. Both Shikamaru and Sasuke studied each other as they waited for the proctor to call the fight. After a few seconds of silence, Shikamaru finally sighed and got into position to fight. Let's just get this over with, he grumbled. Sasuke scoffed at the Nara's attitude. I know you're putting on that attitude more than you actually feel. You're trying to get me to underestimate you or something. Don't think for a second I'm going to let up on you even for a second. I wasn't putting on an attitude. The Nara shook his head in frustration. Lovely. I just made this fight more troublesome for myself without even trying. Genma noticed that the two seemed to be ready to fight. He raised his hand into the air before he started to speak. First match of the second round, between Nara Shikamaru and Uchiha Sasuke, begin. The proctor announced. Sasuke responded immediately, jumping backwards and making a set of hand signs familiar to Shikamaru. Fire Style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. He unleashed 3 fireballs that flew towards the Nara. Shikamaru jumped out of the way in time, avoiding the Uchiha's jutsu. He, however, predicted Shikamaru's movements and charged him. Sasuke attempted to punch him in the face, but Shikamaru was able to block with his arm just in time. The Uchiha attempted to deliver another punch towards Shikamaru, but the Nara managed to dodge by moving backwards slightly. Shikamaru then proceeded to jump backwards to place more distance between him and the Uchiha, but Sasuke didn't let him. He charged him again immediately, forcing Shikamaru to stop moving and to defend himself from Sasuke's next attack. He's going to overpower me in hand-to-hand combat. I can't find an opening for me to counterattack him from. I need to take him out some other way, Shikamaru told himself while moving out of the way of another punch from the Uchiha. As Sasuke continued to try and land a solid attack on Shikamaru, the Nara focused on dodging while he reached into his pocket. He pulled out a kunai with an explosive tag as quickly as he could and threw it onto the ground between him and Sasuke. He then activated a hand sign, causing it to light up. Shit! Sasuke mentally cursed as he backed up to avoid getting hit from the blast. Shikamaru, as well, jumped away from the explosion. Both genin had managed to get away just in time and had placed a considerable amount of distance between each other. Shikamaru then proceeded to make hand signs for the same jutsu Sasuke had used. Fire Style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu! Immediately, the Nara released a barrage of fireballs towards the Uchiha at varying speeds. They were, however, very low to the ground, which caused them to create shadows underneath them. The second he finished using the jutsu, he rapidly went through another set of hand signs. Ninja Art, Shadow Possession Jutsu! Shikamaru's shadow extended forward, following the fireballs that he had just unleashed. Soon, his shadow managed to pass a few of the fireballs and remained underneath them. Everything was aimed directly at the Uchiha. Sasuke proceeded to avoid many of the fireballs that were launched first before the shadow started to approach him. He jumped backwards to avoid being caught by the shadow. He then sidestepped to avoid another fireball when he noticed that the shadow was still following him and was about to reach him. What? His shadow goes that far? Sasuke jumped backwards again to avoid the approaching shadow. He then noticed that there's still a few fireballs from Shikamaru's jutsu flying towards him. He also noticed the shadows that they were creating. Ah, so he used that jutsu to give himself more shadows to extend his jutsu's length. Interesting. Realizing that the shadow was going to keep chasing him for a while, Sasuke finally decided to go back on the offensive against Shikamaru. Instead of jumping away from the attacks, he simply made a hand sign and disappeared. He knows the Shunshin. Of course he does. Shikamaru grumbled as he cancelled his shadow possession jutsu. The Nara turned his head, expecting to see Sasuke right behind him. He was too late, however, and Sasuke managed to deliver a direct punch directly to his face, knocking the Nara backwards. Sasuke then charged him again, ready to continue with his assault. Shikamaru was in pain as he flew through the air. He noticed Sasuke was coming for him again. Therefore, he made a series of hand signs and unleashed his jutsu right as Sasuke reached him and was about to attack him again. Fire Style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu! Before he hit the ground, the Nara released 3, slightly larger fireballs directly at the Uchiha head-on. Sasuke didn't have the proper time to react and therefore, took the jutsu head-on. As a result, he was knocked backwards and his exposed skin experienced minor burns. He, as well, hit the ground hard. He winced in pain and gritted his teeth to prevent himself from shouting from the pain. Both genin pulled themselves off the ground as fast as they could. Shikamaru was the first, however, and he quickly made a hand sign. His shadow extended from his body and approached Sasuke once again. The Uchiha quickly used the Shunshin jutsu to disappear just in time before being hit by the technique. He reappeared behind Shikamaru and prepared to deliver a kick to his opponent's head. Shikamaru, however, predicted Sasuke's movements and turned around just in time to catch Sasuke's leg before it made contact. Seeing that he was caught and needed to get out, the Uchiha reached for a shuriken and tossed it at the Nara. Shikamaru was forced to let go of Sasuke and jump out of the way just before the weapon managed to hit him. Now that he was free, Sasuke charged Shikamaru and delivered another punch to the Nara's face. Shikamaru was sent flying back with enough force and hit the walls of the battlefield. He then fell to the ground. The Nara slowly pulled himself. His nose was bleeding, and it seemed as if his body was rather sore. Had enough yet, Shikamaru? Is this too troublesome for you? Sasuke questioned with a smirk. This was troublesome the moment it started. That's not even a question, Shikamaru grumbled in reply. He spat on the ground for a second before he turned his attention back to the Uchiha. But I still got a few more things I can do before this ends. Then bring it! The Uchiha exclaimed as he ran towards Shikamaru. Damn, Sasuke's taijutsu really hurts, doesn't it? Naruto noted with a frown on his face as he watched his teammate fight the Uchiha. His attacks really send Shikamaru flying. Lee is a taijutsu expert, and Sasuke was trained to fight him on equal ground, Hinata recalled. I'm sure that means his taijutsu has to be well above average. She, like Naruto, then frowned as she looked at her teammate. Unfortunately, taijutsu is Shikamaru-kun's weakest skill set. I know. The Uzumaki sighed. Just got to have faith in him, though. Shikamaru's smart. I'm sure he can turn this around and catch Sasuke by surprise. Hinata nodded in agreement with her crush. The two continued to watch their teammate fight, hoping for the best. Keeping the fight at a distance is to my disadvantage. He's at his weakest up close. I just need to keep hammering at him with taijutsu, and he'll fall down. Just got to make sure I'm watching his shadow, Sasuke told himself as he continued to charge Shikamaru again. The Nara quickly raised his arms and blocked Sasuke's next attack. He then jumped backwards, avoiding a kick from the Uchiha. Sasuke, however, continued to charge him and keep the two opponents close together. Shikamaru was forced to concentrate solely on blocking Sasuke's attacks. This is hell. I gotta catch him off guard somehow, the Nara noted in his head. He then noticed one of the holes in the ground of the battlefield that resulted from one of his multiple explosive tags. The hole was close enough for him that he could probably get to it quickly. Immediately, an idea came to his head. Maybe that can work. Maybe I can win this. Immediately, Shikamaru jumped away from Sasuke and ran back, focusing on getting away from the Uchiha and to the hole. Sasuke continued to charge him, trying to keep them close so he could continue to fight the Nara head-on. Shikamaru, however, was able to reach the hole. He jumped down inside of it and was underground. The Uchiha proceeded to make another set of hand signs. I'm not going to let him hide underground for long. I'll just force him back out, he thought as he finished the hand signs. The Uchiha stood right above the hole before releasing his jutsu. Fire style, fireball jutsu! A giant fireball the size of the hole developed from Sasuke's mouth and headed directly into the hole. It made direct contact with the ground and caused many of the surrounding earth to catch on fire, a few seconds before the fireball continued to sink into the hole and into the darkness. Soon, the fireball was gone. The Uchiha looked downward into the cautiously for Shikamaru to see if he was still in there. When he looked down, however, he couldn't see him. Well, that flushed him out all right, Sasuke told himself as he quickly scanned the rest of the battlefield. All right, Shikamaru, where did you go to now? Sasuke continued to search the battlefield for his opponent. After a few seconds of searching, however, he felt his body stiffen. He could no longer move his head to search the area. His eyes widened as realization dawned on him. His fucking shadow hit me. Damn it! He cursed. But where is he? And how the hell did he hit me? As if to answer the question, Sasuke felt his body try and grip onto something in the middle of the air. He wasn't doing anything in particular, but he realized what was happening. Shikamaru was climbing out of the hole. A few seconds passed before the Nara managed to get out of the hole. He then turned his head in a way so that Sasuke could see him. How did you manage to stay in the hole? You should have been burnt to a crisp if you actually stayed down there, the Uchiha questioned, angry with himself that he had been outsmarted. The hole provided me with plenty of shadows that I could manipulate and protected with myself, using the shadow protection jutsu, Shikamaru explained. I used the shadows to shield myself from the fire. Then I used the shadows to hide my presence and make you believe that I was not there. That gave me the opening I needed to catch you in my shadow. Damn it! Sasuke growled quietly as his eyes started to change shape. They turned red and had 3 tomo develop around the central pupil. You can activate the Sharingan if you want, Sasuke, but it's probably just a waste of chakra and energy for you. It's not going to change the fact that you were caught and not going to help you do anything about it. The Naro shrugged in response, an action that Sasuke mimicked. God damn it, in the end, I still underestimated him, and now I lost. The Uchiha realized, feeling frustrated and upset with himself. Hot damn! He did it! Enko exclaimed happily, clapping loudly from the audience. He's moving on. I knew Shikamaru had it in him. Way to go, Shikamaru. Anko, for the love of God, sit down. Ibiki growled at the woman. Sasuke Kyuin. Sakura screamed in despair at the sight of the battlefield. Even with the Sharingan, Sasuke wouldn't be able to do anything to fight back against Shikamaru now. Can't believe that happened. Shikamaru's changed. Damn. Kiba whistled in approval. He couldn't even be mad that Sasuke was about to lose. The fact that Shikamaru, the laziest person he had ever known, managed to fight and defeat Sasuke of all people was impressive to him. Kakashi continued to read Ika Ika Paradise. Despite how he outwardly appeared to the people around him, he was paying attention to the battle in front of him. Underneath his mask, he was frowning. Sasuke, you did this to yourself. Hopefully you'll use this loss as motivation to keep training. Shikamaru. Hell yeah. Naruto cheered loudly. That was incredible. Hinata noted, equally as excited as Naruto that their friend had managed to win. Now, all he has to do is finish it. The Uzumaki declared as he focused on Shikamaru intently. You got this, Shikamaru. End this match and impress everyone here. Sasuke's not the type of person that will surrender willingly. I'm actually going to have to knock him unconscious. Shikamaru told himself as he made a hand sign. He was starting to breathe really heavily, but still put forth as much effort as he could to use the jutsu. Ninja art, shadow neck binding. A shadow slowly started to crawl up Sasuke's body in the shape of a hand. Shikamaru had intended to use the shadow to strangle Sasuke and knock him unconscious. The shadow hand, however, stopped halfway as it approached Sasuke's throat. It then slowly started to go back down Sasuke's body back in the direction it came. The Nara quickly realized what was happening and his eyes widened. Damn it. After the fight with Shino and all the hell Sasuke has put me through so far, I'm running dangerously low on chakra. Even when using the shadow of the hole, I don't have enough to use the neck binding technique. Shikamaru realized. He became aware of his body's condition and realized that, besides just heavy breathing, he was also starting to sweat. There's no way I'm in any condition to fight. I'm not even really in the best condition to finish him off. And there's not a damn way in hell I'll win any more fights. The Nara knew immediately what he was going to do. He called off the shadow possession jutsu, releasing Sasuke from his control. He then raised his hand into the air and spoke up, loud enough for everybody in the stadium to hear. I forfeit, he announced with a sigh. What? Naruto, Anko, and Kiba screamed from 3 separate sections in the audience. Both Naruto and Anko had fallen over, both surprised by Shikamaru's decision. Kiba, on the other hand, after the initial shock started to fade away, started to laugh at the Nara's move. Ha! Who was I kidding? He hasn't changed at all. Still the same lazy ass? He exclaimed, his laughter getting louder. Well, that was unexpected. Kakashi mentally chuckled as he looked away from his book and towards Sasuke. The Uchiha was staring with wide eyes at the Nara after the forfeit. Hopefully Sasuke still learns the lesson he needed to from that though. Sasuke-kun did win. Thank goodness. Sakura sighed in relief. The battle was a lot more stressful than she had thought it was going to be, and she was almost certain that her crush was going to lose. However, he ended up being okay. Sasuke was the winner, and that was all that mattered. I can't believe the nerve of that Shikamaru! Ino growled from her place in the stands. First he beats Choji in the preliminaries, then beats Shino in the first round, and now after causing a lot of harm and stress to Sasuke Kyuin, he just up and surrenders. He was a waste of a space. She gave the Nara the coldest look she could possibly give. Someone else should have had his spot in the exams. How dare he just quit when someone like me or Choji would have actually fought until the very end? Asuma covered his ears at the noise of his student. Ino somehow had managed to outdo herself and found a way to be even louder. The man was starting to wonder if he would ever be able to hear properly again. Ino, I'd appreciate you not trash-talk my friend in front of me, please. Choji requested Ino strictly. The 2 genin members of Team 10 proceeded to argue amongst each other about Shikamaru. Ino continued to demean the Nara, while Choji defended him fervently. Asuma watched the bickering between his students and sighed. He didn't quite understand how somebody who wasn't even part of their team could result in so much drama and fighting. I got to say, though, Ino is wrong. Shikamaru's forfeit was based on low chakra, it seems. And if that's the case, then he ended up saving himself from an embarrassing defeat in the next round, or the embarrassment of having to quit right at the beginning. He made a good decision, and showed to everybody here that he is aware of his limits and knows when it is the right time to back off. Asuma mentally noted. More than anyone else here, that kid has earned a promotion to Chunin. The Jonin sensei of Team 10 wondered how exactly Ino was going to react when it would be announced that Shikamaru would become a Chunin. Then again, for his ears' sake, he was starting to hope that he wouldn't be there to witness her reaction in person. You forfeit? Sasuke repeated Shikamaru's decision in surprise. Yeah, I'm spent. I'm running dangerously low on chakra and I don't even know if I'll manage to beat you. And assuming I did, I know there's no way I would make it past the next match. Shikamaru answered with a sigh. Good match, Sasuke. With those words, Shikamaru started to walk away slowly towards the stairs and headed back to the waiting area. Sasuke stood there in the battlefield for a few seconds before he deactivated his Sharingan and shook his head in frustration. I lucked out. If he hadn't have used that much chakra, I would have lost. And if that was a real fight, I'd be dead. The Uchiha realized as he started to walk up the stairs to the waiting area behind the Nara. I need to be more careful in my next fights. Shikamaru, you were so close. Naruto mumbled when Shikamaru finally arrived back in the waiting area. Yeah? I know. But I know my limits, and I wasn't going to pass them. Believe me, I didn't want to surrender. The Nara commented with a grumble. Despite his annoyance before the match, he really didn't enjoy the idea of quitting. He actually was getting tired of being called a lazy ass all the time by everyone, and he knew that surrendering was not going to help his reputation in that regard. I know. I believe you, Shikamaru. The Uzumaki informed his friend. The blonde extended his fist out to the Nara. You did good out there anyway, Shikamaru. You did almost have him, and I think you showed everybody what you can do. I hope. The Nara smirked as he fist bumped his teammate. You did, Shikamaru-kun. Hinata informed the Nara. You did amazing out there. Shikamaru opened his mouth to reply to the girl, but he was interrupted by another voice. Hey, Shikamaru. Sasuke spoke up as he arrived at the waiting area. Shikamaru and his teammates turned their heads to face the Uchiha boy. Sometime after the exam has passed, you and I are going to spar. You're going to have full access to all your chakra and we're going to fight again. And next time, our match will be different. After saying what he wanted to say, Sasuke walked away towards the corner of the waiting area and continued to wait for his next match in solitude. Naruto and Hinata turned their attention to the Nara and smirked. He knows you basically kicked his ass, so he wants to fight you again fair and square later. Naruto commented with a laugh. Somehow, you picked up Sasuke as a rival. Good luck, Shikamaru. I'm sure Sasuke will be a good rival to keep pushing you to work hard as a shinobi. Hinata added with a smile. I hate everything. Shikamaru grumbled. The last thing he wanted was for Uchiha Sasuke of all people to constantly bother him about training and sparring. A few more minutes passed before Genma spoke up to the crowds of people. It's now time for the next match. Will Sabaku no Gaara and Uzumaki Naruto please come forward? Hinata and Shikamaru both stared at their blonde teammate. Naruto put on a neutral expression on his face before he sighed and shook his head. Naruto-kun, be safe, okay? Hinata requested. I'll do my best. The Uzumaki sighed in response. Naruto started to walk away towards the stairs, heading to the battlefield. Shikamaru and Hinata exchanged looks with each other. What do you think, Shikamaru? The Hyuga questioned. Naruto's already done 2 fights, so he's probably tired. And Gaara's going to be ruthless. Shikamaru sighed in response. He noticed that Sasuke was still in hearing distance from them, so he decided to pick his words carefully before speaking. But he does have that thing he could use to maybe give him a chance. Who knows? He just needs to be careful. The Nara then smiled at his teammate. But don't worry about him. Nothing's going to happen to Naruto. The proctor and some of the others will interfere if Gaara actually tries to do something. He'll be safe. You're right. Hinata sighed as she turned her attention to the central battlefield as she waited for her crush to get out there. Do your best, Naruto-kun! Naruto. Naruto turned his head, looking around the stairs for the source of the voice. Seeing nobody around him, the boy shrugged and continued his descent towards the arena. Naruto, we need to talk. Who's trying to talk to me? The Uzumaki questioned loudly, again scanning the area. Something about the voice sounded familiar, but he couldn't quite piece together who it was. Me, you idiot human! Realization quickly dawned on the blonde's face. He finally stared to notice the dark quality to the voice and realized that if nobody around him was trying to communicate, it must be something inside of him. QB, is that you? How are you communicating with me? The blonde thought to himself, hoping that the fox would be able to hear him still. Recall what I said earlier when you were in that damn forest. The connection between us is stronger than it has ever been. As a result, the two of us can now communicate at will. QB responded. So, the two of us can just talk to the other whenever we want? Naruto questioned. Yes. However, our communications will be brief. You're still a brat, and I don't want to talk to you particularly much. The QB informed him with a snarl. However, you and I must talk about your upcoming fight with Shikaku's vessel. Naruto pieced together that Shikaku referred to the Ichibi. He sighed in response at the topic. Look, I don't like the guy and I'm not going to underestimate him. I know exactly what he's capable of and I'm not going to let him do the same things to me. I'm going to make sure he loses and loses hard. The Uzumaki informed him. Believe me, that's fine by me. I'm more than willing to put Shikaku in his place. Having said that, you will not survive this fight alone. You must use my chakra, and use more than you usually use. QB informed him. So you think Gaara is really that tough, huh? Naruto sighed. The boy? He's not strong at all. The fox scoffed in response. What's strong is Shikaku. And I can sense their connection. That damn Tanuki has him completely warped and under his influence. There's no doubt he's unstable and will use Shikaku's power. And knowing him, he'll try and kill you the second he gets the chance. Lovely. Naruto rolled his eyes. Look, if I need your chakra, I'll use it. I'm not going to let Gaara kill me. I just want to fight him and kick his ass properly. If you're needed, then I'll use you. You're not strong or fast enough to kill him yourself. Believe me. You'll need my power. Just know to use it when it's time, otherwise I will forcefully send you the chakra. And if you lose control of yourself in the process, then it's your own damn fault for not listening to me. The fox snarled. After that warning, the fox ended its communication with Naruto. The Uzumaki remained still on the stairs for a few more seconds before he sighed and continued his walk. QB's right. Gaara's going to be a hell of an opponent. And I probably will need its power. But the Uzumaki thought of what Gaara did Dosu and to the genin in the Forest of Death. He tightened his fists at the thought. I want to give him a shot myself at first. I want to personally take him down. With that thought, Naruto continued on his descent towards the battlefield. The Suna boy is a concern to me. Ibiki spoke up to the group. Both Kurenai and Anko nodded in response at the scarred Tokubetsu Jonin's assessment. Every shinobi who had seen Gaara at work during the Chunin exams felt similarly. There was something off about the boy that seemed to unnerve those around him, even those who were much older and of much higher rank and skill than him. While Kurenai and Ibiki didn't know exactly why the boy had that effect on others, including themselves, Anko knew what it was about him that was so intimidating. Naruto mentioned he was the Ichibi Jinchuriki, and an unstable one, at that. She recalled. She looked down towards the battlefield. Gaara was already standing there. He has used a variant of the Shunshin featuring his sand to arrive in the battlefield the second the match was called. She glared directly at the kid. Know your limits, Naruto, and be careful around him. Unconsciously, Anko tightened her fists as she thought about the potential outcomes of the upcoming fight. Although she was mostly positive and imagined scenarios where her student defeated Gaara, there were a few thoughts where she imagined Gaara trying to kill Naruto. If he tries anything on him, I'll fucking kill him myself. She resisted the urge to growl. Anko needed the match to start already. She needed to make sure that her student was going to be okay. The Ichibi, huh? Rashi mumbled as he observed Gaara. He's unstable. I've observed him during the preliminary exam. It seems as if the Biju is in more control than the Jinchuriki. Han noted with a frown. That should not be the case. If the seal was placed properly on him, then he should have been able to resist the Ichibi's influence, unless he had a strong enough trigger to willingly work with the Biju. Han's eyes narrowed and grew cold. It makes you wonder if the humans of Suna did anything to him. Han-sensei? Roto mumbled out his sensei's name in fear. Han, unconsciously, had been releasing killing intent. The Jonin sensei blinked in response before he quickly regained composure and bowed to his student. My apologies, Roto. You should really avoid using phrases like humans, Han. It unnerves people, Rashi noted with a shrug. He then noticed that Naruto was entering the battlefield. Well, guess it's time to see the fight. I wonder how a fight between the two Jinchuriki will go. Han's eyes were focused entirely on Naruto. He knew that Naruto was capable, but he still felt cautious. Gaara's mental stability had him worried. The boy also seemed too linked with the Ichibi. The Gobi Jinchuriki knew that Gaara was going to do everything he could to kill the blonde. Otsuto, be safe. Han thought to himself as he mentally prepared himself to jump in and intervene if anything happened to Naruto. There he is, mother. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Gaara informed his mother with glee as Naruto entered the stadium. And there he is. Kill him. Murder him. I want to actually taste that fox's blood. The Ichibi ordered Gaara. Once you kill him, the whole world will know exactly who you are. Show them who Gaara is. Go and prove your worth. Yes, mother. The Suna Genin spoke aloud. He waited until Naruto approached him in the center of the arena before speaking again, this time to the blonde. Mother wants your blood, Uzumaki. You and your mother can bite my ass. Naruto replied with a slight growl. I don't know what has you so blood-hungry, but I'm going to show you firsthand why that's wrong, why it's immoral to just kill people unnecessarily. I'm going to beat this lesson into you. Genma noticed the hostility between the two genin. He also could feel traces of killing intent being released from both of them. Realizing that they were both ready and willing to fight, he quickly raised his hand. The fight between Sabaku no Gaara and Uzumaki Naruto, begin! He declared, lowering his hand. Naruto made the first move against Gaara. He jumped backwards and tossed multiple shuriken at the red-headed genin. Instantly, sand shot out of the gourd on Gaara's back and intercepted the weapons, blocking them before they could reach Gaara. The Uzumaki then started to toss multiple more shuriken as he ran around Gaara in circles, attacking from different angles. No matter what angle Gaara was being attacked at, the sand blocked all of Naruto's weapons and kept the Suna genin safe. During the attacks, Gaara didn't move at all. Once Naruto had finished tossing weapons, he finally moved his head to face him. Is that all? I was expecting more from you, he said monotonously. He raised his hand towards Naruto, causing his sand to shoot forward towards the blonde. Naruto quickly jumped out of the way, dodging Gaara's sand attack. The Suna genin then made another gesture with his hand, causing the sand to change direction and try and attack Naruto once again. Realizing that the sand was going to continue following him, Naruto started to think of a way to get the sand to stop chasing him. How about I blow the sand away from me? He came up with an idea and proceeded to make a set of hand signs. Wind style, wind release stream! Naruto released a stream of wind directly towards the approaching sand. The sand split apart for a moment and flew backwards, away from the Uzumaki. In seconds, however, the sand started to overpower the wind and flew, once again, towards Naruto. My sand is stronger than that. It'll take much more to overpower it. Gaara spoke, letting out a dark, humorless laugh at Naruto's attempt to stop his sand. The Suna genin raised his second hand, causing another blast of stream to charge at Naruto. The Uzumaki was now surrounded on both sides by incoming sand. Cursing, the Uzumaki quickly made a hand sign and disappeared with the Shunshin just as the sand blasts collided with each other. The Uzumaki then reappeared directly behind Gaara and attempted to punch him in the head. More sand from Gaara's gourd, however, came out and intercepted his fist. The sand then surrounded the hand, preventing the Uzumaki from jumping away. What? Naruto gasped. Fool! Gaara stated sharply as he made a pushing gesture, causing more sand to rush out of his gourd. He was preparing to crush Naruto underneath it. The Uzumaki quickly pulled out a kunai with his free hand and cut the sand that had entrapped his other hand. He managed to cut through it, freeing his hand. He then immediately jumped away just in time as the sand came down to crush him. Naruto quickly jumped backwards, placing more distance. None of my attacks are working. Nothing is getting past that sand shield thing of his. Naruto cursed to himself. I need to find some way to get past it. Maybe through an underground attack? Earth style, headhunter jutsu. Naruto quickly submerged himself underground. He remained under the earth for a few seconds while Gaara waited motionlessly for the blonde to attempt an attack. Finally, after a few more seconds, Naruto jumped out of the ground directly underneath Gaara, hoping that the sand wouldn't be able to block him at the angle he was trying to attack at. Unfortunately for him, his theory was incorrect. His hand was immediately caught by the sand before anything could happen. Gaara then stepped backwards slightly and made a gesture with his hand, causing the sand to pull Naruto out of the hole that he had created. "You really are a fool." Gaara shook his head as he placed his hands together. "Sand coffin! Sand burial!" In a matter of seconds, Naruto was surrounded by a tomb of sand and was crushed underneath it. Gaara had expected blood to leak out of the sand, but he became curious when nothing leaked. He quickly dispersed the sand. The only thing that was present there was a cloud of smoke, the smoke that was generated when a shadow clone was destroyed. That trick from earlier, huh? Gaara realized. He remembered seeing Naruto create shadow clones while he was underneath the ground in his fight with Kuratsuchi. It won't do him any good. Gaara was prepared to send his sand down the hole from the Naruto clone's attack and potentially attack Naruto from underneath the ground, but he didn't have to attack Naruto that way. The ground around him opened up and around 100 Naruto clones jumped out one after the other. They all surrounded the red-haired genin and made a set of hand signs. Wind style, great breakthrough! The 100 shadow clones released their own individual large gusts of winds directly at Gaara. The multiple blasts of wind collided at the same time. Gaara's sand shield attempted to block everything, but was unable to do so. There was too much concentrated wind flowing at him. As a result, some of the wind blasts actually hit the Suna genin, cutting him slightly. What? Gaara's eyes widened slightly. There's my opening. Naruto realized, a smirk developing on his face. The original Naruto released his jutsu while his clones continued their onslaught. Using his shunshin to travel fast, he moved directly in front of Gaara and delivered a punch to his face. Gaara was sent flying backwards upon impact and hit the ground hard. Naruto then quickly used the shunshin before his clone's wind attacks started to affect him. He teleported right behind where Gaara's body had fallen and picked him up. "Not so tough when you get past the sand shield, huh?" the Uzumaki questioned. "That was a very good idea." With so many different attacks and force being applied on him, Gaara was unable to block every attack. Ibiki realized. A grin developed on his face. Naruto knows precisely how to handle him. He's a good fighter, yeah, but it's not over yet. Anko mumbled as she continued to focus on the fight. She was, indeed, proud of Naruto that he got past the sand shield, but she knew she couldn't celebrate just yet. Gaara had to have another set of tricks up his sleeve. The Tokubetsu Jonin just simply knew it. How? Did? Temari blinked in surprise from her place in the audience. Gaara was hit. That can't be. She shook her head, trying to register what exactly happened. Naruto had managed to use wind, the very skill she uses, as a manner to get past Gaara's shield. How much force were all of the clones releasing when they used the great breakthrough? That shouldn't have been possible. Temari, don't worry about Gaara, he'll be fine. Baki spoke to the girl sternly yet quietly, to avoid attention from the people around them. Focus. The signal should be soon. Temari nodded in response to her sensei's words. She then turned her attention to the fight, while still paying attention for a signal. Naruto, while holding Gaara, was planning on punching the boy directly in the face again while he still could and before the sand shield came back to him. Before his fist landed, however, he noticed that Gaara's body was falling apart. It started to lose its shape before it simply turned into a pile of sand that fell to the ground out of Naruto's hands. What? The Uzumaki's eyes widened. He turned his head to look for Gaara when he noticed something develop from the pile of sand. Gaara came out of the ground with a smirk on his face. He made a hand sign, causing all of the sand to rush over to him. It then scattered all across the battlefield into smaller blasts of sand. All of them were concentrated on destroying the clones. In a matter of seconds, Gaara had managed to destroy all of Naruto's clones, leaving him alone. The Suna Genin gave the blonde a malicious grin. That was impressive, Uzumaki. I wonder what else you're capable of. He commented. Don't play with him for too long. Destroy him already. I want him dead by my hand. Shikaku roared within Gaara's head. Yes, mother. Gaara replied immediately as he made a hand sign. The sand that had scattered across the battlefield came back together again and formed a larger, circular shield around the Genin. Gaara became completely enclosed in the sand, unable to be seen. What the? Naruto mumbled in response at the sight. Naruto stared at the giant shield cautiously, waiting for Gaara to attack him. A few seconds passed by before he realized that the boy was going to do nothing to him. The more time that passed by with Gaara inside the shield, the more Naruto was starting to get both suspicious and nervous. I need to bust him out of there somehow, he told himself as he made a hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu! Naruto released a set of 10 clones that he sent forward to try and attack the giant shield of sand. The clones rushed it, preparing to punch the sand and knock it down. Just as they reached the shield, however, spikes developed on its edges and stabbed the clones. They all dispelled immediately. Naruto's eyes widened in response at the sight before he shook his head and started to make another set of hand signs. Wind style, great breakthrough! Naruto released a giant gust of wind at the shield. The Uzumaki poured in as much chakra as he could to try and blow the sand down. His effort failed, however, and the shield didn't even budge one bit. The Uzumaki's eyes widened once again at the sight. How is that thing so strong? Naruto mumbled to himself as he stared to breathe a little heavier. It's not that it's strong. It's that you're not using enough power. The Kyuubi spoke within Naruto's head. You're not using my power. That fool! Orochimaru hissed within his head. Is he trying to release Shikaku already? He's going against the plans that we've had. Kazekage-sama, are you alright? Hiruzen questioned the Kazekage. A moment of silence passed before the Kazekage nodded his head. I am alright, thank you. I am just surprised that Gaara is fighting so defensive. I was wanting to see my son do a little more than play safe. Understood. It's a cowardly style of combat. Effective, yeah, but cowardly. Inoki grumbled to himself. The Kazekage chuckled at Inoki's comment. He then turned his attention back to Gaara. A few seconds passed before his eyes started to wander across the stadium, looking for undercover Suna and Oto shinobi amongst the guests that were watching. Our plan is still salvageable. We'll just need to make adjustments and act immediately. Orochimaru realized. Kabuto, send the signal. Alright, I see it your way, Kyuubi. I need chakra. Naruto admitted to the fox. Good. Use it well. I'm giving you just a little bit less than one tail's worth of chakra. This should be more than enough to destroy that stupid shield. The Kyuubi informed him. Naruto closed his eyes, trying to channel the fox's chakra and help the process go by faster. Immediately, he felt the chakra rush through him. His eyes started to become red and his teeth and fingernails started to sharpen. The boy also was starting to be surrounded by a red/orange chakra cloak. Repeat the step from earlier with your clones when you got past the first sand shield. Only this time, focus on hitting on one central area. That should destroy a part of his shield and give you the opening you need. The Kyuubi advised. Understood. Naruto nodded in response as he made a hand sign again. Shadow Clone Jutsu! Naruto created another set of 100 clones. All clones proceed to charge at Gaara's sand shield and jumped in the air. They all then made the same set of hand signs. Wind style, great breakthrough! Each clone released a massive gust of wind directly at the center of the sand shield. Despite the fact that they were all being targeted on one area, the wind was so intense that it caused a heavy breeze to develop throughout the area. Everyone in the stands felt the breeze. The concentrated strength of the wind, powered by Kyuubi's chakra and magnified by the 100 clones attacking one area, slowly started to do damage to the shield. At the center of the shield, it was starting to crack. The original Naruto quickly saw his opening and proceeded to charge. Just as Naruto reached the shield, the wind managed to destroy the shield slightly, creating a hole. Gaara was now visible to the outside the world. The boy's eyes were closed as he was making a series of hand signs. The Uzumaki continued to rush through the hole and used the claws that came from Kyuubi's chakra to attack Gaara. He managed to cut at Gaara in the chest. Although the cut wasn't deep enough to kill him, it was deep enough to cause the Suna Genin to bleed. Gaara's eyes widened immediately as pain coursed through his body, a feeling he had never experienced before. His eyes slowly lowered to Naruto's claw-like fingernails and how they had managed to cut him deeply. Blood! That's blood, that's... Gaara mumbled to himself before he started to scream loudly. That's my blood! Ninja art, Temple of Nirvana Jutsu. Yakushi Kabuto, within the audience of the Chunin exams, casted a genjutsu that scattered all across the stands. Immediately, people began to see white, illusionary feathers floating around that managed to put them asleep. It was an act that did not go unnoticed by the Suna and Oto shinobi within the stadium. That was the signal. The invasion against Konoha was now underway. Chapter 29: The invasion begins. After attacking Gaara, the sand shield that surrounded him fell apart. The Suna Genin staggered backwards in pain, still screaming. Naruto jumped backwards to put some distance between the two. He then focused his eyes solely on Gaara, waiting for the redhead to make a move and trying to decide how his next attack should go. His focus on Gaara was broken at the sound of an explosion. The Uzumaki turned his head in the direction of the noise, and his eyes widened in fear. What? Naruto was barely able to speak at the sight. The explosion had occurred within the stands of the stadium. Most of the people were asleep and unable to do them. Only a few were awake. They were currently being engaged in combat by a group of Suna and Oto shinobi, all of whom were in uniform and equipped to do battle, as if they had planned to fight. What's happening? Naruto's thoughts were interrupted as he was forcefully knocked back further by a powerful gust of wind. He was sent flying into a nearby wall, and winced in pain. The Sunagekure Jonin, Baki, had jumped down onto the battlefield where he had previously been, along with Temari and Kankuro. Damn it, Gaara! He has no patience whatsoever. Baki grumbled to himself as he studied the condition of the Jinchuriki. He's useless like this. Temari! Kankuro! Both Suna Genin saluted the Jonin, showing him that he had their full attention. Take him away from the stadium. Find some secluded place where he can calm himself down. Once he's recovered from his pain and shock, get out of there. Let him release Shikaku. Yes, sir. Both Suna Genin nodded as they grabbed their brother and picked him up. Naruto pulled himself off the ground and recovered from the attack on him in time to see Temari and Kankuro use the Shunshin to get themselves, and the dazed Gaara, out of the area. Captain Baki! A Suna Chunin called out as he jumped down to the battlefield. I've received word from the groups around the village. The invasion is underway in all areas of the village. Invasion? There. Naruto's eyes widened even further at the proclamation. Good. Baki nodded his head. I have new orders for you, Daichi. Temari and Kankuro were tasked to assist with Gaara and get him somewhere safe so he can calm down. I'm worried they'll be ambushed. Join up with them and make sure they can complete their task. As you command. The Suna Chunin, Daichi, nodded as he vanished, using the Shunshin as well. Once his subordinate had left, Baki turned his attention towards Uzumaki Naruto. He noticed the blonde was now standing on his feet after being knocked away by his own wind-style ninjutsu. He seemed, for the most part, unharmed. The boy was also the reason for Gaara's current condition and actually managed to physically harm the redhead, a task that some shinobi in Suna considered impossible. With that in mind, the Suna Jonin glared at the boy as he started making hand signs rapidly. While you did manage to impress me with your little battles today so far, especially with Gaara, I'm afraid you're on the wrong side. Baki commented coldly. Don't take this too personally. Just die. Baki immediately finished his hand signs and released a large gust of hurricane-like winds directly towards Naruto. The blonde had prepared to jump away in time before the attack struck him, but the wind was intercepted before it could reach him. The proctor for the exam, Shiranui Ginma, had jumped in the way and deflected the wind with an earth-style ninjutsu, creating a giant pillar from the ground that stopped Baki's attack. Uzumaki Naruto, are you alright? He questioned seriously. I'm fine. Naruto replied as his eyes continued to scan the area. What's going on? Are we being invaded? Is this war? Afraid so. Ginma shook his head in response. I know you've been working hard during the exam so far, but you're gonna have to work even harder. I have a mission for you, a mission for our village's safety. Due to his heritage and recent studies of genjutsu with Kakashi, Uchiha Sasuke noticed the genjutsu that was unleashed on the stands in the stadium the moment it was released. Unlike Hinata and Shikamaru, he made a hand sign and dispelled the genjutsu before it could affect him. Sasuke remained awake and watched everything around him. So, this is what war is like, huh? Sasuke commented quietly to himself as he saw Konoha shinobi fight against Suna and Oto shinobi. There were many theories that Sasuke was aware of about the reasoning behind his brother's actions during the massacre. Although Sasuke didn't know his true motives, one theory he heard made a lot of sense. Itachi went insane after being exposed to the evils of the Third Great Shinobi World War at such a young age. It was only a theory, but Sasuke thought it did make some sense. As a result, he did not have any enjoyment at the idea of going to war. This environment creates people like Itachi, I'll destroy all who are trying to create people like him. The Uchiha snarled within his head. On instinct, he was about to jump away and join his sensei to fight against the shinobi. He then stopped and looked at the two sleeping genin around him, Hinata and Shikamaru. Sasuke then quickly brought his fingers to their heads and dispelled the genjutsu, waking them up. What's going on? Shikamaru asked upon waking up. After a very brief explanation that Konoha was being invaded, Hinata looked downward in time to see Naruto get nearly hit by a wind-style ninjutsu. Her eyes widened in panic. Naruto-kun! She nearly screamed as she, without a second thought, jumped down to the battlefield to help out her friend and crush. This is bad. This is really bad. The village is going to need help. Naruto's going to need help. Realizing that his friend was in danger, Shikamaru rushed over to the edge of the balcony to jump down and help his teammate. He, however, winced in pain upon reaching the edge. His body was still sore. Damn it. In this condition, I'll just be a hindrance. Shikamaru, if you want to help them, then you'll need some of these. Sasuke spoke up as he pulled out a small container of pills and held it out towards the Nara. He realized immediately what they were and took the container. He then popped open the cap. Soldier pills, right? Yes. If you really are running that low on chakra and stamina, then you'll need those if you want to help out at all. The Uchiha informed him. He then started to head out of the area. I'm going to help out Kakashi-sensei. You stick with Naruto and Hinata and make sure they're okay. You all then should help with the fighting. We need to do everything we can to end this invasion fast. With those words, Sasuke jumped off, heading directly for his sensei, ready to do battle. Shikamaru, upon listening to Sasuke, grabbed 2 pills from the container and took them. Once he started feeling the effects, he jumped down to meet up with his teammates. Unlike the people around them, Han and Rashi both noticed the Temple of Nirvana Jutsu and dispelled the Genjutsu, remaining fully awake. They quickly became aware of what was happening. Suna and Oto were invading Konoha. Of course there's an invasion. It's been too long since the last war. People really can't just enjoy peace, can they? Rashi shook his head in anger and disappointment. It's human nature. It's as if the species can't thrive without something like this. Han noted with a scowl on his face as he quickly assessed the situation around him. The Gobi Jinchuriki noticed that the Ichibi Jinchuriki, along with his siblings, had fled the area. He also noticed that their sensei had attempted to try and kill Naruto with a wind-style jutsu, only to be intercepted by the proctor of the exam. Despite his improvements in his attitude and relationships, Han had no loyalty towards Konoha and he was still uncertain about many things about his faith in humanity, amongst other things. One thing was certain to him, however: Uzumaki Naruto was somebody he was close to. The boy possessed people that truly cared for him despite his Jinchuriki status, and the village of Naruto, and these important people of him, was being attacked. Their lives were being threatened. They won't touch him, or this village. I won't let them, Han mentally told himself. The Iwa Jonin put his fingers on the forehead of Roto, who fell asleep to the Genjutsu. The civilian-born genin quickly woke up and started to look around the area in confusion and fright. What's going on? Roto asked, surprised at all of the fighting. Konoha's being invaded. It's not safe right now, Han answered simply. He then pointed a finger towards Risho, who was still asleep from the Genjutsu. Roto, grab Risho and take him somewhere safe, wherever Kuratsuchi is. He's in no condition to be fighting and neither is she. I need you to work together with any capable Konoha shinobi in the area around them and keep your teammates safe. Protect Risho and Kuratsuchi? Me? Roto's eyes widened at the request. He had always considered himself the weak link amongst his teammates. Being forced into the responsibility of taking care of them, in the middle of an invasion, was a big shock to him. It took a few seconds before the initial fear and surprise faded and he was able to look at his sensei with determination in his eyes. I will! Good. Please be careful, Roto, Han requested his student. Rashi and I will be assisting Konoha in actual battle. Stay hidden and stay safe. Use all of your training in stealth to get you and Risho out of here undetected. Do whatever it takes to keep yourself and your teammates alive. Roto nodded and quickly picked up Risho's body over his shoulders. He then made a hand sign, causing himself and the sleeping Kurigane shinobi to turn invisible. He then hurried out of the area, making sure to avoid any of the battles going on around them. You know, we have no orders to get involved, right? This could go against Inoki's wishes. Rashi pointed out to his fellow Jinchuriki. I realize that, but I'm not going to wait for any orders. Naruto is in trouble and there is an invasion underway. I will do what I can to help. Han noted as he jumped down from the stands to join up with the Uzumaki. I wasn't saying that we shouldn't do anything. I'm just a little apprehensive about pissing off Inoki too much. Rashi commented, more to himself than his friend. But I'm not going to let you risk your life in this fight alone. If you're going in, then I'm going with you. With those words, Rashi jumped down along with his fellow Jinchuriki. As the two landed on the ground, the older, red-haired man turned his head slightly to check up on the Tsuchikage and see if he could gauge any reaction from him about whether or not they were acting against Iwa's wishes. Instead of seeing the Tsuchikage, along with the other Kage, Rashi saw a giant purple barrier form around the Hokage's balcony. He also saw Konoha ANBU agent attempt to jump into the barrier, only to have himself burned to death upon contact with the barrier. The Yambi Jinchuriki's eyes widened as his mind processed the sight. What the hell is going on here? Immediately after the signal was released, the Kazekage jumped backwards and stood directly behind the Hokage, holding a kunai knife with his right hand. He used his left hand to make a hand sign, knocking back all of the bodyguards of the Tsuchikage and Hokage off the balcony with a powerful gust of wind. Once the Kage were isolated on the balcony, the Kazekage's bodyguards revealed themselves to be 4 Otogekyu shinobi, who used the ninja art, 4 flames formation to trap Inoki and Hiruzen within a purple barrier of flames. What the hell? Both Inoki's eyes and mind were running rampant at all of the chaos around him. He studied everything intently and braced himself to make a move and fight. What's going on here? Inoki-san, I regret not letting you know sooner of my plans. I had so many things that I needed to get done, that I simply didn't have the time to talk to you. The Kazekage noted, his voice changing into a more sinister, darker tone. But I'm sure you can tell what's going on right now. And I'm sure you know exactly what must be done. The man then brought the edge of the kunai closer to Hiruzen's neck. Isn't it about time IWA got revenge against Konoha for the last Shinobi World War? Together, with Suna and Oto, we can burn this village to the ground and get revenge. Quite hypocritical of you to offer revenge for the Third Shinobi World War. If that's the case, you need to die too for all of the damage you did. Orochimaru. Hiruzen spat out the name of the Kazekage. The Kazekage used his left hand to pull off the mask and the Kage hat, revealing his true identity to the Kage in front of him. You did know about the invasion, didn't you, Sarutobi-sensei? You knew this whole time. Orochimaru noted as a grin developed on his face. Quite interesting. I wonder what clued you in, Sarutobi-sensei. Hiruzen ignored the words from his former student and turned his head to face the Tsuchikage. Inoki, I wish such an event didn't occur during your stay in Konoha. I wish for this to be a peaceful event, for the two of us and our villages. But sadly, that didn't come to pass. The Sandaime Hokage stated, It's time that Konoha and IWA had moved past our history and joined together to create a bond that will protect both of our villages. I ask that you and your village with the creation of this bond, by driving out a certain snake from this village. Surely you don't believe such a bond could be created, Sarutobi-sensei. Orochimaru taunted, bringing the edge of the kunai closer to Hiruzen's neck. Time does not erode the events of the past. Nothing can change all of the damage Konoha has done to IWA. The Sannin took a moment to look towards the Tsuchikage. Inoki-san, the two of us can create a real partnership, beneficial to us. We can start by destroying Konoha and the Hokage together. Inoki remained silent for a few seconds as he processed exactly what the two men were trying to pitch to him. Among all of the possible emotional reactions he was experiencing at the situation, he was furious more than anything else. Both of them knew this was happening. Orochimaru had planned this invasion and Hiruzen was aware of it. But they both kept me in the dark, just assuming I would be okay with working with them in the end. He realized. Bah! His eyes narrowed in anger, disgusted at the thought that both men assumed that they could earn his trust so easily with a few words. Despite his anger, Inoki was not somebody who let his emotions cloud his better judgment. The man was aware of genuine facts. The Third Shinobi World War exhausted IWA and he, as the Tsuchikage, wanted to do everything he could to prevent another war like that from happening to his village. He knew that Hiruzen wanted their villages to become allies. The Sandaime Tsuchikage was also aware of the desires of some of his own shinobi, such as Han, Rashi, and his own granddaughter. Times had changed. While the events of the war and all of the lives that had been lost would never leave Iwa's heart, they could do the part to try and start over and look away from the past. Even a shinobi like his granddaughter, who was the biggest patriot for IWA he had ever seen, was willing to vouch for Konoha and desire an alliance with them. If she could be willing to, then so could the rest of IWA at some point, and so could he. Besides, if I'm supposed to be remembering what happened during the war, I can also remember some of the shit you did to us, Orochimaru. Inoki grinded his teeth together, as he recalled the damage the snake Sannin had done in battle. He recalled with disgust all of the bodies he had found had been used for Orochimaru's experiments. With every thought he put into it, the decision was clear to Inoki. Let this be the day where IWA and Konoha stand together as one. Inoki spoke quietly before shouting out, loud enough for all IWA shinobi in the area to hear. IWA shinobi! Defend the village alongside the Konoha shinobi! Although no one within the barrier could directly see what was going on, they all knew the result of Inoki's declaration. The Iwagakure shinobi that had been within the audience were now joining the Konoha shinobi side by side in battle. Inoki. Thank you? A small smile developed on Hiruzen's face. You disappoint me, Inoki. I let you remain within the barrier because I assumed you would have enjoyed the thought of destroying Konoha with me. Orochimaru commented. Despite his words, the Sannin still appeared to be amused more than anything else. Don't make assumptions about me, Orochimaru. Leaving me in here was a mistake, and because of it, you are going to die today. The Tsuchikage hissed. Immediately after the Tsuchikage finished speaking, Hiruzen jumped away from the Sannin, freeing himself from the man's hold. Once he had placed distance between himself and his former student, the Hokage quickly pulled off his robes, revealing a black combat suit with green gauntlets on his right wrist, forearm, and shoulders. He had on a black, armored hood and was wearing a scroll on his back. Once he had taken off the robes, the scroll fell to the ground and burst, creating a cloud of smoke. Once the smoke was cleared, Jiraiya appeared where the scroll had been, prepared to fight. Ah, and Jiraiya is here as well. You had him disguised as a scroll underneath your robes. Interesting. You really did prepare for a fight with me. Orochimaru commented. Once again, he seemed more amused than upset or angry. I wouldn't miss the opportunity to help Sensei and the Tsuchikage take you down. Jiraiya spat out, glaring at his former teammate. Orochimaru, this ends now. Oh, it will. But I don't like the odds of a 3 versus 1 fight. The snake Sannin noted as he immediately started to make hand signs. How about I make this fight a little more fair? Upon finishing his hand signs, 3 coffins appeared from underneath the balcony. One of the coffins was marked with the kanji for earth and one while the other 2 were marked with the kanji for fire. One of them also was marked with the kanji for 1 and the other possessed the kanji for 2. Orochimaru then proceeded to make another hand sign and cause another coffin to rise up, but Sarutobi immediately tossed a series of kunai at it, preventing it from rising. So you prevented that one from rising? Oh well. You didn't react fast enough to stop these. Orochimaru commented with a sinister grin. The coffins opened and fell to ground, revealing 3 figures inside. In the coffin marked with the kanji for earth was a man with long, blackish-gray hair. He had a mustache and a long, pointy beard and was wearing a silver-colored kimono with wide sleeves. Underneath the kimono was mesh armor that extended all the way down his legs and arms. In the coffin marked with the kanji of fire, and one was a man with waist-length black hair and tan skin. He wore dark red armor over his body and had on with black pants. In the coffin marked with the kanji of fire, and 2 was a man with white, shaggy hair and had red markings underneath his eyes. He wore blue armor over his body with black pants, and also wore facial armor that covered his ears and the side of his face. There was also white fur on his armor that covered his neck. All 3 men slowly walked forward after being released from their coffins and looked forward. They all possessed black, dead eyes that showed that they were not from the land of the living. Hashirama. Tobirama, my senseis. Hiruzen gasped at the sight of the men in red and blue armor. Orochimaru, you really perfected that jutsu, huh? Jiraiya glared at his former teammate. Perfected? No, there's still room for improvement on my part. But I suppose the results are more than satisfactory at the moment, wouldn't you agree, Jiraiya? Orochimaru replied with a grin on his face. Kamizura Ishikawa. Inoki's mouth was wide open at the sight of the Shodaime Tsuchikage. This isn't possible. This can't be possible. The sand-aimed Tsuchikage soon recovered from his shock and proceeded to glare at Orochimaru. What kind of trick is this, Snake? Trick? This is no trick. This is the Edo Tensei. It a jutsu designed by the Nidaime Hokage, Senju Tobarama himself. I figured he, along with his brother and the founder of Iwagakure, would enjoy seeing the jutsu in action. Orochimaru explained with a chuckle. Anyway, the numbers have changed a little in my favor. I suppose now we can begin our fight. What do you need me to do? Naruto asked Genma seriously upon hearing his order. I don't know what their purpose is, but those 3 Suna genin are needed for something. Especially Gaara. I need you to follow them and take them down and prevent them from doing what they are trying to do, Genma ordered. I don't have time to leave. There's a lot of fighting going here, so I'm going to stay here and do what I can. You look like you were going head-to-head against Gaara, so I think I can trust you to be able to stop whatever Suna has planned with him. I understand. I can do it, Naruto nodded in understanding. Naruto-kun. Naruto turned his head at the sound of the voice. Hinata jumped down to the ground and reached him. Shortly after her, Shikamaru followed behind, seemingly rejuvenated after his fight with Sasuke. Are you alright? Hinata asked frantically. She was thanking whatever god existed in their world that had managed to keep him safe from Baki's last attack. I'm fine. Don't worry about me, Naruto told her confidently. But right now, we don't have much time to waste and worry about each other. Tell me about it. The village is in danger, Shikamaru mumbled as he reached his friends. Then Nara's eyes were focused on the battles that were occurring around them between Konoha/Iwa and Suna/Oto Shinobi. If your friends are able to, maybe they can help you in your mission, Genma suggested to the members of Team 3. The Proctor Jonin then noticed a Rouge Oto Shinobi about to attack a few of the unconscious members of the audience. He also noticed that nobody was seemingly aware of his attack. Shit! Naruto, I'm counting on you to complete your mission. Upon repeating his order, Genma jumped off to confront the Oto Shinobi before he could kill off any of the unconscious shinobi. He left the 3 genin members of Team 3 alone. Both Shikamaru and Hinata seemed confused at the mention of a mission. What mission? Hinata voiced her confusion. Whatever it is, perhaps we could be of assistance. Upon saying those words, Han and Rashi arrived at the battlefield of the stadium. The 2 Iwa Jinchuriki were looking around the area, preparing for any potential conflict to occur. Han and I. Naruto exclaimed in surprise upon seeing the Gobi Jinchuriki. He then turned his head towards the redhead and gave him a look of confusion. And, nice to finally meet you, kid. I've been wanting to meet the Kyubi Jinchuriki for a while. Name's Rashi. I'm the container of the Yambi. He greeted. Naruto's eyes widened at the information and was about to speak to the redhead, but Rashi shook his head and continued to speak again. But right now's not the best time for introductions, now is it? If you got a mission to keep your village safe, then we got to get moving and do it. Naruto nodded his head and a look of seriousness and determination filled his face. We have to catch up to Gaara and his teammates before they can get away. Realization dawned on his face as to what the intent probably was. I think they're going to try and release the Ichibi. The eyes of the shinobi around him widened. Both Shikamaru and Hinata seemed nervous and terrified at the idea of Biju being released into the village. Han and Rashi, although not as nervous as the genin around them, realized the severity of the situation. As a result, they looked forward with blank, serious stares. I'm a decent chakra sensor and can sense the movements of the Ichibi Jinchuriki. I know what direction he is heading in. If we hurry, we can catch up to them and prevent the release of the Ichibi, Han stated. We don't have time to waste. You all need to follow me. Han immediately started to run off, rushing towards the stadium exit. Naruto, Hinata, Shikamaru, and Rashi followed behind, trying to keep up with the Iwa Jinchuriki. They're trying to catch Gaara, huh? Baki realized as he watched the group about to leave the stadium. The Suna Jonin proceeded to make a series of hand signs. Not on my watch. They'll all die before they can get out of here. Before Baki could release his jutsu and attack the group of shinobi, a large fireball flew directly at him. The Jonin was forced to cancel his attack and jump out of the way to avoid contact. After the failed attack, Anko jumped down into the battlefield, glaring at him. Mitarashi Anko, the famed snake mistress of Konoha. Baki recognized the woman. He gritted his teeth, realizing that she wasn't going to be somebody he could blow off. She was going to confront him and, unfortunately, prevent him from attacking the group that was heading towards Gaara. Baki, one of the highest-ranking shinobi within Sunigakure. Anko nearly growled as she spat out his name. Your village became a part of my shit list the second this invasion started. But you just tried to attack my students, and for that, I'll personally see to it that your body is nothing but ash once I'm through with you. Quite big talk. The Suna Jonin scoffed. I hate arrogance. Let's see if you can actually back up some of your words. I'll do just that, Anko replied, cracking her knuckles slightly. Upon exiting the stadium, Naruto, Hinata, Shikamaru, Han, and Rashi began their pursuit of Gaara and his teammates into the forest of Konoha. They noticed that the village was, indeed, under attack, and some of the important buildings of the village were under assault from Suna and Oto shinobi. Naruto and his teammates wanted to intervene and do something to stop the attacks, but they knew the mission that they were assigned to. Therefore, they continued on their pursuit with the IWA Jonin to reach Gaara. How much further ahead is he? Naruto asked Han. Not much, thankfully. If we continue at this pace, we will surely reach him. The Gobi Jinchuriki spoke up. Almost immediately after he finished, though, he felt another set of chakra signatures. Although, we have a problem. What's going on now? Shikamaru questioned. I can sense 9 different chakra signatures coming in our direction. At some point, they'll intercept us, Han answered, scowling slightly. Judging from the signatures, they are all around Chunin level and strength. Only one of them is Jonin level. Well, they don't seem that special then, if only one is at the Jonin level. Rashi chuckled in response. Perhaps I could do you all a favor and get rid of them by myself. After finishing his answer, Rashi stopped moving and remained motionless on a tree branch. He turned his attention and took a deep breath, preparing for a battle. Han, along with the genin of Konoha's Team 3, turned their attention to the Yambi Jinchuriki. Are you sure that's wise, Rashi-san? 9 against 1 does not sound safe at all. Hinata spoke up, wanting to discourage the red-headed IWA shinobi from going against that mini shinobi alone. Have some faith in me. I've been a shinobi longer than your parents have been alive, I bet. Not to brag or anything, but they're probably going to need more than 9 shinobi to stop me, Rashi declared confidently. His face then became more serious as he looked at the group. Besides, you all don't have the time to get distracted. The goal is to capture that Gaara kid above all else, so you can't be wasting your time with some random shinobi. I'm just going to hold this group back so they don't slow you all down. The determination and seriousness of his voice showed the group that Rashi wasn't going to change his mind. With that realization, all of them nodded. I know we don't know each other well yet, but you're a Jinchuriki like me and I want to meet you properly. Be careful, old man. Naruto requested the Yambi Jinchuriki. Old man? Just you wait. This old man will be just fine. You and the rest are the ones who need to be careful. Rashi laughed in response. Rashi, Naruto's right. Stay safe. Han repeated Naruto's request. The Yambi Jinchuriki immediately stopped laughing and exchanged a look between himself and the Gobi Jinchuriki. A second passed before he nodded to his friend. I'll be fine. Promise. And I'll catch up with you guys once I'm through with these shinobi, Rashi stated. You all just hurry on ahead and catch the Ichibi Jinchuriki. The group finally nodded before they continued on their pursuit, heading in the direction of Gaara and his teammates. Rashi remained on the tree branch as he started to make hand signs in preparation for their pursuers. A minute passed before 8 Otogekure shinobi appeared from the trees. Rashi took note that one of the shinobi Han sensed, the 9th member that appeared to be Jonin level in skill, was missing. He then decided to assess the skills of the 8 present shinobi in front of them. To his surprise, it was nearly impossible for him to find a difference between any of the shinobi. They all looked the same, possessed the same equipment and combat uniforms, and didn't appear any different in strength from one another. Upon this realization, Rashi started to laugh again. I've written enough novels in my lifetime to know that these men aren't anything special. They're nothing more than filler characters, waiting to be killed by the power of the author. He told himself, grinning. And as an author, I'm more than willing to do what needs to be done and kill them off. This is a conflict between Konoha and the forces of Suna and Oto. IWA doesn't need to be involved, old man. I'd suggest just getting out of our way. One of the Oto shinobi informed him. Heh. You all think you're worth more than you actually are. I can already tell that you are nothing but pawns to your leader. Rashi continued to laugh, amused at the Otogekure shinobi in front of him. His laughter soon stopped, and he looked at them intently, radiating killing intent. Let me show you exactly how unimportant you really are! With bubbling rage, the 8 Otogekure shinobi charged Rashi, prepared to fight. Rashi, in response, started to make hand signs. Kankuro-sama! Temari-sama! Kankuro and Temari looked back in surprise at the sound of the voice. Daichi, a Sunagekure Chunin and chakra sensor, was rushing up behind them. The man was breathing heavily, showing that he had worked hard to catch up to the two siblings. Daichi, what are you doing here? You should be helping in the invasion forces with the rest of the shinobi. Temari informed him sharply. Change of plans. Captain Baki wished for me to accompany you three and help you get Gaara to safety. He predicted that you would both be pursued and could use some extra assistance, and he was correct in his assumption. Daichi replied. Immediately, Kankuro and Temari paled at the Chunin's words. They were both silent for a few seconds before Kankuro gained his voice back. How many shinobi are pursuing us? And how far away are they? He asked. I sense 5, no, 4 chakra signatures following us. One of them seems to have stopped moving. Daichi shrugged in response. Nevertheless, 4 are still following, and 2 of them have extremely high chakra signatures. At the pace they are going, they will eventually catch up to us. Shit. Gaara needs to recover more. A battle occurring around him right now could only make things worse. Kankuro hissed at the realization. Then I'll stall them. Temari suggested firmly. Temari, what are you suggesting? 4 against 1 is not good odds at all. Kankuro nearly shouted at his sister. Probably not, but I can stall them a little bit. You two keep moving and get Gaara away. That is our orders and it's what needs to be done for Suna. I'll hold them back for you too. The blonde exclaimed. She then loosened her grip on Gaara, allowing Daichi to come and take her place in carrying him. Understood. Kankuro sighed, shaking his head slightly at his sister's actions. Don't die, Temari. Suna will survive today, no matter what. I need to make sure that you do as well. I'll be fine. She reassured her brother. Kankuro nodded before he and Daichi, carrying Gaara, continued to rush ahead through the forest. Temari waited on the tree branches, looking for their pursuers. She gripped her fan tightly in her hands, waiting to attack at the first sight of Konoha shinobi. A few seconds before she saw the rustling of leaves in the trees in front of her, showing that a group of people were approaching, Temari's eyes widened and she immediately swung her hand, creating a large gust of wind at the rustling leaves. Han, along with Team 3, jumped through the leaves and saw the approaching gust of wind. They were forced to jump out of the way before being struck and knocked back by the wind. All 4 members landed on nearby tree branches and saw Temari, standing on a branch higher than the branches they were on. Temari. Hinata recognized the girl as the kunoichi who fought against Kuratsuchi in the preliminary exams. I'm not going to let any of you get closer to catching Gaara. Your pursuit ends here, Temari declared sharply as she swung her fan once again, creating another large gust of wind in their direction. Once again, Han and the genin of Team 3 were forced to jump away to separate branches. After they evaded her attack, Shikamaru spoke up with a sigh. It's obvious that she's just trying to get us to waste time. So we shouldn't waste our time. Only one of us should fight her, and I'll volunteer to do that, Shikamaru answered. Naruto and Hinata, both remembering Shikamaru's exhaustion after his fight with Sasuke, looked at the Nara in surprise. Are you going to be okay, Shikamaru-kun? Hinata asked nervously. I'll be fine. I had a little something to keep me going, the Nara noted, taking out the soldier pill bottle Sasuke had given him. He then tossed the bottle towards Hinata. You should take one too, by the way. I'm sure your fight with your cousin wore you out, at least a little bit. Hinata looked a little hesitant at Shikamaru, but seemed to accept his answer. She nodded, agreeing with Shikamaru as she took one of the soldier pills from the bottle. Shikamaru, you sure about this? We could all work together and take her out quickly, Naruto suggested. Not quick enough. We're already wasting time just arguing about this. Gaara's getting away. You 3 need to get out of here and catch up to him already, the Nara exclaimed. He is correct. Naruto, Hinata-san, we should be going. Han spoke to the other 2 members of Team 3. I can sense the presence of the Ichibi Jinchuriki getting further away. We need to keep going with our pursuit. Naruto realized that both Han and Shikamaru were right. The 2 genin gave Shikamaru one last look, before they finally spoke up. Be careful, Shikamaru. If something happens to you, I'll kill you myself. Naruto spoke up with a small smirk on his face. Nothing will happen to me. I'll be fine. Shikamaru replied with a smirk of his own. Now you three need to go. Han continued with his pursuit through the forest towards Gaara, with Naruto and Hinata following behind. At the sight of their movement, Temari prepared to swing her fan again at the retreating shinobi. She stopped, however, at the sight of kunai knives approaching her. She used her fan to deflect the weapons and then looked in the direction they had come from. Shikamaru was now approaching her, holding another kunai in his hands. Your fight is going to be with just me. Don't even think about going after them, he informed her sharply as he tossed the kunai knife at her. If you want to fight, then so be it. Temari nearly shouted as she deflected the knife, once again, with her fan. I couldn't keep them all busy. Kankuro, be safe. They're still coming after us. Temari-sama was only able to keep one of them. 3 are still following. Daichi informed Kankuro. Shit. Kankuro continued to curse. Perhaps I should follow in Temari-sama's example and hold them back and let you keep moving on with Gaara. The Suna Chunin offered. No. That'll be my job. You're a faster shinobi than I am, Kankuro stated with a sigh. The Suna puppeteer stopped moving and waited on one of the tree branches. He then made a hand gesture towards Daichi, encouraging him to leave. Just keep moving. I'll hold these 3 back as long as I can. Get Gaara out of here, though. Will do. Daichi nodded as he continued to move, carrying Gaara on his back. Kankuro watched the Suna Chunin leave the area with his brother for a moment before he turned his attention forward, waiting for the pursuing shinobi to arrive. He released his puppet, Karasu, from the bindings on his back and prepared to strike. A few seconds passed before Han, along with Naruto and Hinata, arrived in the area. Kankuro, upon seeing them, made a gesture with his hands, causing his puppet to release a poisonous bomb from its mouth directly at the group. It exploded directly in front of them, releasing the poisonous gas. Wind style, great breakthrough. Naruto breathed out a large gust of wind. Naruto's jutsu blew away Kankuro's poison. Once the gust of wind and the poison clouds were sent away from the area, Naruto, Hinata, and Han turned to stare at the Suna puppeteer. Humph. Now you're sticking behind, I see. Naruto glared at Kankuro. The reason you didn't fight today in the exams was because of the invasion, wasn't it? That was definitely part of the reason. Kankuro answered as he returned Naruto's glare with one of his own. Don't take this all too personally, kid. I'm following orders, just like you are. The Uzumaki gritted his teeth in response. The Suna puppeteer was right. The shinobi of Suna and Oto were just following orders. He couldn't hate them for that. However, that didn't mean he had to be happy they were attacking his village and that he wasn't going to do whatever he could to end the fighting. Naruto cracked his knuckles before he started to speak. Don't take it too personally, then, when Naruto-kun, you and Hansen should continue moving. I'll fight him myself. Hinata interrupted her crush. Huh? Hinata? The Uzumaki looked at his friend in surprise. It's just like Shikamaru-kun and Rashi-san said. Gaara is getting further away and you can't afford to let go too far ahead. You both need to catch up to him. Hinata continued as she reached for her bow and an arrow. The arrow she chose was similar to one from her fight with Niji and was, therefore, marked with an explosive tag. I'll fight and keep him distracted from you guys. Hinata prepared her bow and fired the arrow at Kankuro. The Suna puppeteer and his puppet quickly moved out of the way and avoided the resulting explosion. Immediately after her explosion, Hinata turned her attention to Naruto and Han. You guys need to go, she informed them sharply. The Hyuga noticed that Naruto still seemed a little uneasy about leaving another of his friends behind. Using the adrenaline that was rushing through her body thanks to the invasion, Hinata moved over to Naruto and gave him a soft kiss on the cheek, causing his eyes to widen exponentially. Once she finished the kiss, she looked him in the eye and gave him a smile. I'll be fine. Promise. Hinata told him. Keep that promise for me, then. I don't know what I would do anything happened to you. Naruto finally answered, returning her smile with one of his own. With those words, Naruto and Han continued in their pursuit of Gaara. Hinata remained in the area alone. She began looking for signs of Kankuro. Are you really going to let my friends just get away? Hinata asked aloud. She activated her Byakugan and proceeded to locate her opponent. She turned her head in his direction once she found him. There's no point in trying to stop them. I can tell you'd get in the way. Kankuro responded. Hinata fired another arrow in his direction, but her attack was blocked. Kankuro and his puppet jumped out of hiding and stood atop a branch, ready to fight. I just have to hope I stalled you all enough for Gaara to recover. If he has, then honestly, your friends are going to die. I won't let that happen. Hinata replied, determination filling her eyes as she prepared another arrow. I can feel it. Can't you, Gaara? That damn fox is coming this way, and he's brought our horse brother Kokuo. We can prove our superiority over 2 other demons. We can prove your worth over them. Shikaku exclaimed within the mind of his Jinchuriki. If I kill them, I will show the world who I am. I will have shown my purpose to live. Gaara commented after listening to his mother. Let me out. Shikaku demanded. I will personally help you kill them. Let's show the world who we are together. Let's. Gaara nodded his head in agreement. Daichi continued to move through the forest, carrying the unconscious Gaara on his back. The Sunigakure Chunin cursed, sensing the chakra signatures approaching him. He knew that they were the ones with the highest levels of chakra, meaning that they would be able to easily defeat him and obtain Gaara. Just keep moving at this pace. I can get Gaara away and hide him somewhere where he can recover. When he does, he can become the demon and kill them and help with the invasion. The man repeated to himself. As he started to think about his situation and what he was going to do, he felt movement on his back. Daichi stopped moving as he realized what was happening. Gaara was recovering from his shock and would be able to fight. Thank God. The man sighed in relief. Our ace for the invasion is combat ready dash. All will die so that I may prove my worth. Gaara screamed, his voice booming with demonic fury. Sand began to cover the Jinchuriki's body and caused him to resemble a tanuki. He transformed and took the shape and likeliness of the demon, Shikaku. Daichi's eyes widened and the man dropped him. Gaara landed on his feet and gave the Suna Chunin a sinister grin. Gaara, it's good to see you are dash. Daichi started to stutter. The man stopped speaking as Gaara rushed him, impaling the man's heart with his newly formed claws. Daichi died almost instantaneously. Upon killing him, Gaara pulled out his claw and watched Daichi's body fall from the tree branch and hit the ground. The Jinchuriki then looked over at his claw and noticed that it was covered in the Suna Chunin's blood. Begin with the preparations, Gaara. The fox and the horse are coming and I want to personally kill them with you. Shikaku informed his Jinchuriki. Yes, mother. Let's kill them all. Gaara screamed, his voice becoming even more similar to Shikaku's. Naruto, we're approaching the Ichibi Jinchuriki. He has stopped moving, making me think he is recovered and ready for battle. Be cautious. This won't be an easy fight, Han advised Naruto. The Uzumaki nodded in understanding. After a few more seconds of traveling, 2 Jinchuriki arrived at a clearing in the middle of the forest. Han felt Gaara's demonic chakra in the area and knew that they had finally arrived. They had both arrived just in time to watch Gaara finish the transformation process. Standing in front of them was not the Jinchuriki. Instead, they were staring at the towering figure of a large tanuki made entirely out of sand. What is that? Naruto barely spat out. His eyes were wide and he was staring intently at the tanuki, trying to analyze how big and strong it really was. That's the Ichibi no Shikaku. Han spoke in awe at the sight of the Biju.